Hello and welcome, everybody. Apologies for the late start. We had a couple of technical difficulties, but I think we've got it all sorted, and so we are all set to go. I see there are a lot of folks in the live chat already. Thank you for already saying hello and introducing yourselves. Let us know where in the world you're joining from, because I always love to see where all folks are around the world. And if you are joining on replay, thanks for finding this stream. I hope that you find it informative, interesting, entertaining as well. And I hope you'll leave a comment on this video and let me know what you think about it afterwards. Okay, so the goal of this series is to have, this is a part 2, I should mention, because I saw in the comments from I saw it a moment ago from, I think, Choose Joy with Carmen, that she didn't know that there was a part 1 to this series, and there is. So that's available on replay if you want to check that out. It's on my channel, which is where you're at now, LB Handcrafted. And check that out after this stream, though. So that's always going to be available. And as well, this stream will be available if you aren't able to join for the entire or stay for the entire time. So the goal of the series is to have real, honest conversation about design teams. Now, in part 1, I invited my creative team to join me, and my creative team is 100% comprised of folks who have 0 design team experience. And so it was great to get to talk to them about an outside perspective to what a design team is and what it's all about. And in that first live stream, we had a lot of really good conversation, and not just with my creative team, but also with the folks who joined live. Um, there will be video in a bit. I'm just setting up the context for this stream. So we won't be crafting, we'll just be chatting. So you will see some of us on camera today. But as I was saying, we had some really great conversation with my creative team, but also with the folks who joined us in the live chat. And in fact, the live chat had some really amazing insights, some great encouragement for anyone who's new to crafting, hasn't been on a design team before. And as well, there were a lot of questions too. So it was really, really wonderful to have such a lively discussion. And I'm very excited that some of today's panel members, in fact, are joining us today for this chat. So I'm so excited that they are here today to continue that conversation. Before we do get underway, though, I just want to take a moment, because I'll totally forget to say this part once we get underway. But if you could please take a moment to like this stream, that would help so much, because it does help people who might also be interested in this topic actually discover the stream, because YouTube will be more likely to suggest this stream if there's a lot of engagement on it. And also, if you want to let folks know that we are live right now, you can hit the share button and share it out to Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're at on social media. And that will help folks find us, and hopefully find us in time to actually join us live and join in the conversation as well. So specifically today, we are going to take an even deeper look into what it's like to be on a design team. I've invited some of my crafty friends to join me in this panel discussion, and folks, they are all superstars. I'm so, so excited and honored that they agreed to join me to have this really fantastic discussion. And I've been looking forward to it for probably over a month now, ever since they all agreed. And what I'm most excited about is that we all have such different experiences, and because of that, we have different perspectives. as well. So I'm super excited to learn from these ladies, and I hope that this will be valuable to you as well. Our hope is to share what we know and give an honest perspective on design teams, both the good and the bad. We want to dispel any myths, lift the veil on what it's really like to be on a design team. And I'll say up front, our goal isn't to try to convince you of anything one way or the other, but rather to just share what we've learned and our thoughts and opinions based on our personal firsthand experiences. So, I know you're all eager to get started, so without further ado, let's meet today's panelist. So, as I introduce each of the amazing designers who are joining us today, I'd like for each of them to tell us a little bit about their design team experience so we can all have a little bit of perspective or context as to their design team background. So, ladies, if each of you, as you're introducing yourselves and letting us know where else to find you on social media, if you could please answer these 4 questions, that would be lovely. So I'll make sure that these questions are also rolling across the bottom of the screen in case you forget. So let me go ahead and introduce, well, I have an announcement. Marla of Mad About Cards and Crafts did plan to join us live on the stream. She is here, but in the chat. So I don't know how long Marla can hang with us, but there she is. Thanks for saying hi, Marla. Marla did catch the first part, and I was very excited because she was very active in the live chat and shared a lot with us. And I'm sure for as long as she's here, she's going to also share a bit about her experience as well. But here's where all you can find Marla. I'm gonna copy and paste into the live chat a link to her YouTube channel. If folks want to find Marla, go ahead and click that link. Subscribe to her channel. She does wonderful, wonderful work. So thank you, Marla. I know there's a lot going on for you, so I'm so grateful that you can spend some time with us in the live chat and still be here with us today. So my next guest I'd like to introduce is the lovely Helen of Crafty Mama Diaries. Helen, do you want
Hey
to
guys,
introduce yourself?
can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Can you
Uh-oh.
tell us how long you've been on DTs, why you've
Oh, yes.
resigned, how many
So,
teams you've
okay.
been on, and whether or not you craft full time?
Okay, so no, I don't craft full time. This is my hobby and I want it to stay that way. And I started my YouTube journey about 2.5 years ago during the pandemic. And so I started being on design teams 2 years ago. And then uh, progressed to another design team. So I've been in a total of two. And why did I want to be on the design team? If I'm going to be honest, it's because of the free products. I wanted to feed my love for card making and scrapbooking. So I'm being honest here. Like, it's really for the free products. But then it gradually progressed to um, like just representing that company that I really like,
Mhm.
showing that, I want to help that company. So it transitioned to not receiving the product anymore, but to actually help out that company that I liked. It's weird, but that's how it became, after being on a design teim.
Awesome, and I don't think you're
Oh,
alone in your initial, motivation to I will personally vouch you're not alone in that.
I just want
But
can I say a quick shout out to my friends? All
yeah,
of them right there. Cheryl,
Yeah. I hope
Debbie,
you're seeing that.
Cynthia,
Lots of love.
Lala, Gina, all of them. Oh my goodness, they're all here. I can't,
Oh,
my camera
yay.
won't work, you guys. I'm so sorry. I know you want to see me.
Oh, well, lots of love for you in the live chat, and thank you for introducing yourself. All right, next up, my bad, one too many. Alicia, please welcome and introduce yourself. One sec, let me add
Yeah.
you. There you go.
Hello, guys. And it's not just me. Did you see I have a friend here? But we'll let her introduce herself in a little bit. So, if you don't know me, my name is Alicia, but many of you might call me Crafty Owl. And I have been designing for design teams off and on for when I lived in Kansas about 10 years ago. I was on a couple and I did a couple guest designer spots, and kind of the same thing now. Within the last few years, I've been on a few, done some guest design spots. And same as with Helen, I wanted the free product. So I think that's what motivated me the most. And wow, I don't know how many teams total. It's really not as many as you would think. I think for myself, I almost have to make my teams to be on a team. And I did leave my part-time job, and I do just stay home now and make videos, and I take care of our kitties during the day, and I do a little bit of housework.
Wonderful. Folks, I forgot while Helen was introducing herself, I didn't post her Instagram link, but I did just a moment ago. And I've just posted Call Me Crafty Al's YouTube channel link. So please do pop on over, give them some love, follow, and subscribe to their social media. All right. Thank you for the introduction. Danny, we'll get back to you. So, because my slides are a little out of order. All right. Okay, Kim, you're up next. Welcome to the panel. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Lynn, thanks for having me. My name is Kim Simpson, otherwise known as Kim Creates. And I hate answering questions. So I started on my first design team about November of 2021. So coming up on almost a year and a half. I have been on a total of 8 with a few guest design team spots, and currently I'm sitting on 5. Everybody has already said it, but why? It started out as the product. I needed to feed my habit. But I really found that it came about to wanting the challenge of having to break out of my shell. So tons of fun. And no, I do not craft full time. Sometimes I wish I did, but
Only
I work.
sometimes?
Okay, most of the time.
No, I'm
Work
just kidding.
interferes with my crafting time.
Awesome. And lots of love for you in the chat as well. I did post Kim's Instagram link to the chat. So there's an easy link for you to follow, but on screen you'll see all of the places that Kim shares her amazing work. Okay, next up is the lovely Stamper girl, Delise. Delise, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Let's see. My camera decided that it doesn't want to show my face anymore. So after I set up my camera, now it's not working. But it's okay. Okay, so how long have been NDTs? Probably, so if my daughter is 16, it's probably about 16, 17 years. And I have no idea in how many. Like when we're talking about that long, I don't know what I did yesterday morning. So to tell the truth, I couldn't tell you how many teams. I was very lucky to be in 2 international teams, actually 3. One was based in the UK and the other 2 in Canada. So that was a completely different experience, and it was for scrapbooking. So first I started doing cards, then I moved to scrapbooking, then I'm back into cards and digital scrapbooking. So why did it started? Huh. Oh yeah, my camera is working now. So why did I start it? The products, right? There's so much out there that even if we can afford some of it, we can't afford it all, right? So we tend to, at least I tend to look at the teams and submit to teams that I know that I love 100% the product. I think that is very important when you're looking for a design team. It should be something that you really truly love what they have been doing in it as a product and as their design ways, right? Did I got everything? I think so.
I think you got it
Oh,
all.
do I craft full time?
Yeah.
I do not craft full time. I wish. Maybe soon, since I am in the lookout for a new job. But that's a completely different story.
All right, wonderful. Thanks so much. And Delise is here on YouTube as well under the handle Stamper Girl. I've copied her link into the live chat too, so you can easily find her. And our our last guest, but you already saw Danny. So Danny, welcome. And if you could please introduce yourself.
I'm Danny, and everything I think that I have, social media or whatever, is Danny's Dreams. I feel very, very old here, but anyways, I have been blogging and crafting for about 16 years. I have been on 35 design teams, and I've been a guest for 23 design teams.
Wow.
I also
That's in addition to the 35.
Yes. And I've run 2 challenge groups, and I've also been a design team coordinator before. So yeah,
I think I'm sitting next to the queen.
busy gal. Thank you.
And why did I start? First, when design teams started, when I started blogging, I just wanted to see if I could do it to begin with. Then I discovered you could get free product. So then I did that. But then I've also been on a lot of challenge teams, and I did it more for inspiration than product. And it kind of goes back and forth between product and inspiration and just promoting companies that I love. And awesome. I don't know what else there's. Oh, and I'm currently on, I think, 5. And I do craft full-time. About a year and a half ago, I have ankle problems, so I had to quit my full-time job and part-time job, whatever it was. And my husband said that I could stay home and be happy. So I stayed home and be happy.
What a wonderful hubby. That's awesome. Lots of love for you in the chat. I also just copied a link to your blog, which is where you post most of, if not all of your crafty makes. Yeah? Awesome. Let me quickly introduce myself as well. So my name is Lynn. You can find me as LV Handcrafted all over the socials. I don't have a slide for myself because I forgot. But I have been on design teams for about 2 years now. And I think in total, I've been on about, I last counted, I think it was like around 15 or 16. And I've rolled on and off of some teams. And so I'm not currently on that many. And I initially started for the free product, but more also to gain exposure to primarily my YouTube channel. And I thought that being on a design team would help kind of introduce me to different audiences and different viewers. And so I did have a goal in mind to kind of further my social media following. And in the beginning, I focused on YouTube. And I do not craft full time. I do work, but I work for myself, so my job is pretty flexible. Um, and thanks everybody for the lovely comments in the chat. You're here on my channel now, so LV Handcrafted. Okay, so with that, I just want to, well, before we get to that slide, I do want to thank you all for joining me today, and I do want to set some ground rules for our conversation today. So our our goal is to be open and honest, but I just want to make sure that um, we're not mentioning any specific names of companies or individuals. And also so that our viewers, both live and on replay, just so that you understand, all of us are under some form of confidentiality with our DT sponsors. So we really can't talk about specifics anyways. But also, it's kind of the least important detail about what we have to share, because what we're going to be sharing is what we've learned and how we feel about the experiences that we've had in general. So for those watching, whether you are watching live, um, thank you for joining us, or if you're watching on replay, please do me a favor. Don't speculate or draw any conclusions or inferences as we're sharing our experience with you. I know many of you probably know us from different design teams, so if you could please just try not to speculate if we're talking about any particular company. I know it's natural to wonder who we might be talking about, but as I mentioned, that's probably the least important detail to take away. So if you could just try not to speculate, that would really be wonderful, because I really appreciate everybody making this a very open and positive space for us to have this conversation. And, all of our guests here are here in the spirit of being helpful to anyone who might benefit from this discussion. We don't want to spread any gossip or generate any negativity at all. That is definitely not what today is about. But the reality is that there are some ups and downs with being on a design team. And this isn't a DT recruiting video, so we're not here to sell you on anything in particular, on all the wonderful things about design teams. We're here to give you a balanced look at the experiences we've had and to share our personal thoughts and opinions. And do remember, they are only just our personal opinions. So how we feel about a particular situation, somebody else might feel very differently. So, take from this conversation whatever you find useful and helpful to you. And okay, so everybody who is currently in the live chat, thank you for chatting away. I love that you're all active in the chat. And I also welcome you to share your experience as well. I do have several topics I've already planned to cover during our panel discussion. But as we're hitting on each topic, I welcome you to ask follow-up questions. I did see a question earlier about international DTs. And so, do feel free to ask questions. If you can try to keep them on topic, that would be wonderful. If a question pops up in your mind that's not on topic, maybe just jot it down, because after our planned panel discussion, there will be an open Q&A. And so that will be your opportunity to ask any questions that we have not already covered. And this will kind of hopefully help us all stay on topic today and get to all of the wonderful topics that we plan to talk about. And also, just in the spirit of point number 1 here, or rule number 1, please also keep your questions general and not specific about any particular company or brand. For example, don't ask, how do I get onto company XYZ's design team, or what is it like to be on XYZ company's design team? We're not going to be able to answer those questions for you. And speaking of questions, if I do miss your question in the live chat, don't hesitate to ask again, or type it in all caps to get my attention. My panel is going to help me try to catch any questions that are on topic, and that is my goal, to get as many questions in front of this panel as possible. All right, thank you for indulging, and thank you for agreeing. No speculations. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get underway with our first topic. So, there's lots of benefits, to being on a design team. The first of which, many of our panelists have already kind of touched on, and that is to get free product. Maybe seeing things before they release. That could be another fantastic perk. But the question I have for you ladies is, what is something that you did not expect about being on a design team that you absolutely enjoy? And why don't we hear from Delise first?
Let's see. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I keep forgetting if I muted my headphones, if I muted the iPad. Okay. So first of all, is I would have never met Lynn and Kim. So to me, it's the people that you meet, and suddenly you know that some member, at least one. Trust me, it's always at least one. It's the same level of craziness as you. Has that same level of craziness that you're like, oh my God, you're my kinship. You are the person that I've been looking for to just have this crazy conversation in 10, 11 p.m. crafts at night, and sending a picture and saying, oh, this doesn't look right. What do you think I need? I'm like, and that person's going to answer within the 2 minutes, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, because they're awake at the same time that I do, or that they think the same way. They understand my brain. So I wasn't expecting that. And that is something that I gained some great friendships in just people that I have gone to meet, like that I would never, I go and travel with hockey with my daughter, and I will text someone, I'm going to be in your area, and they go like, oh my God, yes. Like, you know that those people are like, they're your people.
I love this comment from Marla. I love all of the designers I have come to know too. I love that it's really a team. And Jay also says inspiration is a good benefit too.
100%.
Delise, Heather says, you mean there are more that are your level of craziness?
Just a handful. Just a handful. They're hard to find at my level of craziness, but I let them go, a tiny bit below my craziness, and say that they're still my kinship. I have to.
Awesome. Cynthia says, crafters share the same level of obsessiveness and passion. I found my people too. Awesome. Panel, anyone else?
I know sometimes like you're... Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Delise.
Sometimes you just you find something on sale and you go like, oh my God. And you have to share it with someone, and your husband is going to go, okay. And you need your people to be able to send it. So I think that I would say even more than the products is the people you meet along the way.
Absolutely. And I just want to throw it out there. Anyone else on the panel?
This is Helen. Oh, sorry, Alicia. You can go ahead first.
No problems. I always like to just get right out there. I think most of mine have already been said. I love to get the free product. It's fun to see stuff before the public. And yeah, I think just most of all, I never expected to make the friendships that I have. Because you all you have the same love, the same passion for crafting, and you're working with the same company, and you get to share what you're creating. So yeah, just like the community.
Awesome. Helen?
Okay, this is Helen. Just like Delise and Alicia said, the friendships, because I honestly never thought I would meet so many people, especially like international. Like, for example, I met one of my friends who's from the Philippines, and she flew here, gave me like a week's notice that she'll be in my area. And I was like, yes, I'm going to meet you. And like, how often does that happen? Another thing like I didn't expect is the motivation, the extra motivation I got to create with items that really spoke to me. Like it really made me expand my crafting, if that makes any sense, because usually I'm stuck to just one thing and I never think outside the box, if that makes any sense. And so it helped me, I guess, grow as a crafter too. And that's something I didn't expect.
Awesome. It sounds like, Helen, we might be having some audio technical difficulties with your mic. So if you need to maybe exit and come back, maybe try that. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Marla, for letting us know. But just in case folks couldn't hear, Helen was saying that she enjoys the friendships that she's made, but as well feels that she's grown as a crafter too, and that getting the different products has helped her to kind of work outside of her box and also just try different things, and so I think that's wonderful. And
Lynn, can you hear me now?
Yes, much clearer.
It's okay now? Okay, awesome.
Okay, thank you. Glad you could figure that out. And Meg says that she agrees. She loves thinking outside the box and trying new things that I might not have tried before on my own. And you're very welcome, I'm a pillow. I hope I got it right, Helen, that I summarized what you said.
You did.
Thanks. Mommy Guide Inc. says, so awesome to hear that amazing friendships and community building are things that happen as being part of a DT. And I kind of want to speak to this myself too, because when I started crafting, or I should say when I started sharing my crafting online, I didn't know any other crafters, because in my like my personal life and friendships, I don't know any paper crafters. And so most of, or I should really say all of the crafting that I did was just me by myself making stuff. And when I joined design teams, it was really great to actually get to know different crafters, get to see different styles of makes. And there was a question from, I'll bring it up here, Cool Cakes and Crafts with Amalia. How does the team communicate and meet? And a lot of this, I mean, every team's going to be a little bit different, but a lot of it happens over Facebook. And there generally is a Facebook group that's private and just for design team members to communicate. And some teams are more chatty than others, and then some teams, kind of like what Delise Stamper Girl was saying, you'll find potentially the one or two, people on a team that is your kind of crazy, and you just find yourself talking maybe more kind of offline with those folks. And so to what Delise was saying also, I only started live streaming because Kim and Delise were willing to do it with me, because I was very scared to do it by myself. And so that's, it's thanks to them that I do live streams, and we're all here today. So it's really fabulous, the friendships and just the community as a whole. And that is definitely something that I did not expect to happen when I first joined a team. Welcome, Jay-Z. Happy Scrapper Mama 4. Awesome. Monica says, yes, I don't have local crafty friends either. Yeah, and it's really great that, everybody, it's such a global community. And so it's great to kind of at least virtually meet people. And that's the other reason why I really enjoy hosting live streams, and why I love hearing where everybody is joining from, because it's just great to see how far we are physically, but how, close of a community we can be. Did anyone else want to share on that topic before we move on to the next? All right, so let me bring up Meg. Says, Monica, I don't have local crafty friends. I have to travel over an hour to see my nearest crafty friend. Wow. But that's not that's not too terribly bad. Although that being said, Kim's only like a couple hours away, and we have never met. And I think Barry's even closer to me. And I haven't met him in person either. Okay, so wonderful. Thanks, everybody, for sharing what you like most that you didn't expect out of being on a design team. So the next topic I wanted to talk a bit about was, I think that it's pretty well understood that the expectation of being on a design team is to create projects using particular products, or if it's for a challenge blog, for example, making projects that fit a particular theme. And so one of my channel members submitted this question, and that person's curious, beyond just making the project, what else all is involved? What skills do you need to have? Do you need to actually know these skills before you even apply? And, how much time does it actually take? Maybe if you could guesstimate how many hours a week do you think you spend on design teamwork? So that's our next topic. I'll have it scrolling across the bottom here. And let's start with Kim. Do you want to share your take on this?
Sure thing. So this is a really great question. It really, the amount of work or what work is involved outside of just creating the project depends on the requirements for each team. Some teams want you to do a blog post. Some teams just want you to post on socials. Some you send in, some you have to send your projects to them. And so it really varies. And I've been on a variety of or teams that have a variety of requirements. I think for me, the blogging is what takes, outside of the actual creating, the blogging is probably the most time consuming.
On that,
And
Kim, there is a question from Cece. Is it a requirement that you have to have a blog?
Great question, Cece. So it really depends on the company, what the company wants. If they're specifically looking for blogging team members, then you would have to have a blog. But um, a lot of teams are going. Well, I think a lot of teams are going more towards focusing on the social media aspect. Um, it's not required in all cases. Fortunately, when I got started with design teams, I already had a blog. It was atrocious. Let's be honest, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. The photographs that I took of my projects, when I go back and look at them, they're laughable. Um, so I had to really work on building my knowledge in how to take decent, well lit photographs of my projects and then watermarking them, editing them if I didn't get, a great photo. Um, None of this is incredibly difficult, and it can be learned and learned fairly quickly, but it does take time. Um, and then, the posting to socials. I'll be the first to admit that at times I find it very challenging because it doesn't want to cooperate for me. So it's really hard to quantify how much time a single project takes. It depends on, as far as creating the project, it depends on if I have good mojo that day or not. Sometimes it just comes together beautifully, and other times it's a struggle.
Do you think
But
you can guess how many hours a week you spend on DT work?
um, I would say probably 5 to 10, maybe more some weeks, maybe less.
Mhm. And you work full time?
I do.
Yeah. So that's still a
And I
good
live
chunk of
on a
time.
farm. Yeah, it is. But it is also my stress relief. So
Mm,
it's kind of twofold for me.
yeah. Awesome. So we've got some comments in the chat about I think Meg said that none of the teams she's been on has actually required her to have a blog. And Sassy's LLC says one of my design teams requires a blog. There's also question from Mommy Guide Inc. How are you able to balance your time between work, family life, DT work, and Kim, I'll throw it to you first since you're already talking, and farm life in your case?
That's a great question. Sometimes, honestly, I feel like I don't do it well at all. Um, I um I do, as Lynn mentioned, and I started to mention, I do live on a farm. It's just a hobby farm, not a working farm, thankfully. But that means my mornings start very, very early. And so I take care of my chores, feeding the animals, and then I'm able to come in and craft before I start work. If I work from home most days, so while I'm home, I can craft on my lunch, and then I often sit and color while my husband and I are watching TV in the evening.
Yeah.
Um,
So a lot of multitasking.
Absolutely. Well, and fortunately for me, I don't sit still well. Like I have to have something to do with my hands, so crafting is perfect for me. But sometimes it's a struggle. I tend to overextend myself and I have to really take a look at what I'm doing. So,
Yeah, I love this comment from Monica too. She says it's important to be very clear on the requirements before applying. And I think that's super important and great advice because you definitely want to make sure that you understand what the DT sponsor is expecting from you. And then I would say the other half of that is to try to be honest with yourself on what you have time for. So so it's one thing to know, what they expect, and then it's another to know what you can realistically deliver. Um, Panel, anyone else want to take a stab at this question?
You want me to go first? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm one of the rare unicorns, which I call myself, that I started blogging and I don't think I will ever give it up. It's just natural to me. Blogging to me is like second nature. So I just blog as I create my project. All the supplies are there, then I finish it off. For me, social media drives me bonkers. When I started, you just had to share on a blog, maybe a forum or a message board, and you were done. Now you have to blog. You have to share in at least 5 groups usually. You have to share on Instagram. You have to share here and there. And it's just I spend probably an hour, well, no, probably a half hour a day just on social media work for my projects.
Mhm.
And that doesn't even take into, the designing of them or creating them and photographing them and editing them. And when I was doing YouTube, the videos, but I am kind of pushing that to the side. I discovered it stresses me out too much. But yeah, definitely knowing what you're getting is good. Some teams are not good at communicating that either. You might sign up for something and then they change it on you. But communication is the key. I found usually you can talk with them and work it out. Let's see. I guess that's it. I don't know. Is there anything else?
I just kind of want to add on to what everyone has said. I agree. It's a photographing, editing. I don't do blogging, but since I do videos, I will tell you that like you might see a 10-minute video edited on YouTube. That has probably taken the person creating it 6+ hours to make the project, record it, edit, get it all uploaded. So some of it's time consuming, but I kind of like the process. With Danny, yeah, just make sure, and somebody else said it too, know ahead of time how much you're going to have to be posting on other things besides just like your main video. Because sometimes I think that can catch you off guard, how long it can take. You're like, oh, it's 2 cards or 2 projects a month, but then there is time involved.
And like for me, I found I'm like, oh, I stay home, I can do this. So I took on way too much. And then I was like, what did I do? Yes, I have all the time in the world, but I also am a mom. I'm also a wife. I also need to do some self-care. So even if you are a full-time crafter, you really need to evaluate exactly how much you really want to devote to it.
Yeah. I just have one thing to add, and then we'll probably let you go. But the person who asks about like the balance, I really try to now, like when my husband comes home about 2:30, I go up and say hi, but I come back down, I set my alarm, and then dinner and after, I really try to be upstairs and available or just there, because there was a point where I was seriously down here in the basement, which is where my studio's at, from waking up to going to sleep and then on the weekends. So I'm doing better at just having a life outside crafting, because it was becoming a little bit more of a job than, you might want it to be.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I think that's and maybe this is what Kim was getting at too, in terms of, maybe she might like to be doing it full time, because once you're doing it full time and it does feel like a job, is it quite as alluring as it once was? And I'll take a stab at this question too. So I think part of it is in terms of what you have to do. Yes, you do need to know how to take good photos, know how to watermark your photos. You do need to kind of, if you are joining a team that is video focused, you'll want to know how to produce videos. And those are all things you need to know how to do before you apply. because teams, when you apply, will often ask you for your social media links so that they can look at your projects. And I've never been in a position to really evaluate because my creative team I picked, the only requirement was to not be on a design team. So it's, so it's different when I chose my design team members, but I would imagine that DT sponsors are looking not just to see if your crafty style is, a good fit for them, but they are going to evaluate you on those things, whether you have well lit, well composed photos. That's not a strength for me. I don't do a lot of like lifestyle product photography with my cards. If you're applying for a video team position, they'll probably watch a video or two of yours to see if it's well produced, if the sound quality is good, if the lighting is good. And I saw Meg asked in the chat, and I think Delise did answer you, but occasionally there are out by companies. There are a couple of Facebook groups that I know about that are, you can kind of think of them as like, message boards for advertising if you're putting out an open call for new design team members to join your team. So anyone interested in joining a team, I'll try to find that link as we're chatting and pop it into the live chat. But I would join that group and see, if new DT calls get posted there. That's one way to find out if there's a particular company. I think Delise said this, be sure that if you're considering applying to a company, that they produce things that you love for the most part. And then if that's the case, follow them on their social media. So if they have an open DT call, likely the first place they will start advertising is to their Facebook page and or group, to their Instagram, to their newsletters. So those are a couple of places where you can find out about DT calls. And as well, generally speaking, but Danny spoke to this as well, when an open call is put out there, usually, you should at least be able to expect it, but it doesn't always happen. Usually they tell you what all they expect, how many projects per month. They'll tell you all the things about, well-lit photos and whatnot. Some are very specific. If you're on a video team, they want to make sure that you know how to add an intro and an outro to your video, that you know how to publish videos to YouTube. So some DT calls are very specific, others not so much, but you're always welcome to follow up and ask. So definitely, that's a couple of ways that you can kind of find out about DT calls and what you might expect to see in one. And in addition to what they expect from you, often they will tell you what you can expect from them, in terms of maybe product, sharing your makes to their social media as well. So I see a lot of chat here, but this caught my eye. So Marla says that she paid for a lifetime Filmora account. I did too. So that's what I use to edit my videos as well. And so I think that in terms of, I don't think Danny or Alicia answered, how much time they spend, but I will definitely agree with Alicia that, and Danny mentioned it too, social media sharing can be very time consuming because it's not just about either scheduling your post to go out there ahead of time, but there's a lot of follow-up to that. If somebody leaves a comment on your post, I think most, if not all of us, like to also respond and comment back and, thank them for their compliment. And so I don't know about you ladies, but I kind of find myself always on social media because if you start ignoring the notifications, it like really can pile up. So then it becomes like a huge chunk of time, and and so I just find myself on social media all the time.
Yes. Like I said, I'm kind of old school and I go back and forth. There's some days where I'm like, oh yeah, social media is my friend. I'm loving it. And there's other days where I'm like, oh my gosh, do I really have to make another social media post? Oh my gosh, somebody liked it, or oh, they left a comment. I appreciate it, but I just am not in the mood. So it's a very, very fine line. And yes, you do you can't just ignore it. I mean, they took the time to comment. I want to take the time, but some days I just can't. So that has been something I've been struggling with a lot. The more that I'm doing this more like full time, I guess, is that I thought, oh, I just sit at home and make pretty things that sparkle. And I'm finding I do make pretty things that sparkle, but I also have all this other stuff that's all balled up with it. So
we both, when you said about the time that you have to take to respond, we both said out loud here, oh yeah, that's a good point. I guess that's not even something I thought of, but yes, you want to let them know that you've seen their comment and you appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, Delise, audio, you're on mute.
Thank you. We're not even taking into consideration the time it takes to deal with spam, the time it takes to take away those bots that are leaving nasty stuff. That takes time too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just a lot to contend with. And to Danny's point, I feel the same way in the sense that, if somebody took the time to, leave you a message, you want to take that time in return, and it may not seem like a lot of time, but it definitely adds up. So I'm seeing, so Heather says, I get lost on social media responding to comments. Yeah. And realize I barely craft all day. Absolutely. It's, I mean, I hate to put it this way. It can really, absorb your time in a way that you don't expect. And Meg says, Lynn, your group is the friendliest group around. Oh, thank you so much. Everyone responds to everyone's compliments. I love that. Or comments, I should say. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that culture of the Crafty Fun with Friends Facebook group as well. I think that I really appreciate how welcoming my group is. I'm sure there's lots of other groups that are like that as well. So it's just one of those things that, like, it's great to see. I love it, but to encourage, promote that vibe, I like to kind of lead by example. And in my own group, I love, comment on every post, and so it's it's a lot.
I just wanted to say something that I do, like in the morning, I love to set timers and do things. So in the morning, I might set a timer for 30 minutes and I go to my YouTube channel and I reply to as many comments as I can. And if I still have time left, then I'll go to like Instagram. But many times that alarm's going off before I am done answering.
Yeah.
So I'll do that like a couple times a day.
yeah.
Yeah, because Alicia, your channel is huge, so I'm sure it's hard to keep up with the volume of comments and likes and stuff that you get. So just a follow-up question for you: are you able to answer or respond to everything? How do you feel if you miss something? I'm just curious.
That is one thing that I've done from the beginning. I read and I answer every single comment. Now, it might be I read it and it might be thanks for watching, or it might be more involved, but I really feel for myself that I think that's how I kind of grew a community and grew my channel, because I really do read every single comment. Unless YouTube is acting crazy and doesn't show me, but I do respond to everything on my YouTube channel.
That's amazing. I'm blown away because your channel is huge. Be sure to pop on over to Alicia's channel if you aren't already a fan. Call me Crafty Al is her handle, and in fact, let me go ahead and I'll pop her link in the chat as well. I did see this comment I wanted to address. So Monica says that the social media algorithm often kills us if we don't interact. So to be seen, one has to interact with others too. This is such a good point, Monica, because if you are trying to grow your wherever your platform is, whether it's Instagram or your Facebook page, crafty page, or your YouTube channel, every social media platform has a different secret sauce algorithm for what they decide they want to promote. And it's a lot of times driven based on how much engagement there is on that particular post or video. So engagement can take the form of a lot of different things. So on YouTube, it's, how long does somebody spend watching your video? Do they like your video? Do they leave a comment? And liking and commenting, same on Instagram and Facebook. So if part of one of your goals as a crafter is to grow your platform, unfortunately we are all kind of at the mercy of the quote algorithm. And to Monica's point, every time a viewer interacts, that's one interaction. If we respond, that's another interaction. And so it all helps. And if that's a goal of yours, it's kind of something that you kind of have to take with the one of the responsibilities of being on a design team. So it's getting back to the original question, it's not just about your job doesn't end when you're done making the project. There's the promotion of that project, and then there's the interaction with the community that responds to that promotion. And many times we are asked as design team members to post on several different platforms or several different groups. And so it's not just like you're monitoring your own Instagram wall or your own crafty Facebook page. You might have been asked to kind of share on 3 or 4 different Facebook groups. And so you've got multiple places that you need to monitor. And to Alicia's point, sometimes Facebook doesn't send you notifications, or YouTube doesn't send you notifications. So you may even find that you have to kind of go out there and proactively check to see if you have new comments. That can sometimes take time too. Oh, good point. So Choose Joy with Carmen says, plus you have to learn the different platforms. For example, Facebook can send you to Facebook jail if you comment on every comment. And that's a really good point also, because before I joined design teams, I did not have an Instagram account. I did not have a Pinterest account. I was on Facebook though. I was on Facebook. And so not only do you have to kind of familiarize yourself with these different platforms, but also understand their terms of use and all of that stuff. And if you are too aggressive with your sharing on Facebook in particular, to Carmen's point, they can put you in timeout. I don't know if that's happened to any of our panelists, but I'll raise my hand. It's happened to me. Meg's, oh, go ahead.
That's me. I've been in Facebook jail. But I also, for those that don't know, I also have a challenge group and I have a closed swap group. So I'm on there for those as well. So now I have to time myself. I can only leave so many comments and I have to take a break. Same way when I post my creations, for whatever reason, it pings me. I have to like change the wording every single time or I go to jail. So yeah, it's definitely a pain.
Oh, so you think if it's like because they might detect it as spam if it's the exact same wording?
Yep, I see other crafters do it and it's fine. But anytime I try to like copy and paste, I get sent to jail or to the Facebook timeout or whatever, and I'm not allowed to post for like 24, 48 hours. So I've learned I have to change my wording every single post.
Oh my God.
And I also have to limit my comments. Yes, this is another one of my social media, just love them so much.
And wait, hold one sec. I just want to paste a link to Danny's group. She runs, there's a stamp for that challenge group. So if you're looking for a fun challenge group, I just posted a link to her Facebook group that she runs. Sorry.
And one thing to kind of go with that, when you are posting your creations to Facebook, make sure you know the group rules. Like that's one thing you can't just go to every group and share your stuff. Make sure that you know what they allow, I guess.
Yeah, good point. Because what I've noticed is that there's usually 3 things to look for. One, some groups don't like when you just reshare a post. So let's say you post something to your crafty page and you just hit the share button and want to share that out to a group. Some groups don't like that. Mine's one of them. Then other groups are okay with links to products. Some groups don't like that. Mine is one of them. And as well, some groups actually don't like links at all. So you do have to know the group rules. Oh, the other thing, some groups are very specific about the product too. So there might be some groups that are, while they are hosted by a particular sponsor, brand, or company, they may allow other projects featuring other brands as well, and then some are that's kind of a no-no. So definitely it's not just the social media platform rules, but to Alicia's point, it's the specific group and their rules as well. So so it does sound like other folks have been in Facebook jail. So I'm kind of glad I'm not the only one. Meg says that her wording is never the same and she tries to personalize everything, but still she got dinged. I just don't think I think a lot of the Facebook jail stuff going on is clearly, I think, automated, but they just might not have that tuned very well. Meg says, I have found most groups do not want any links to product, unless, of course, to that particular sponsor group. Yeah. And for me and for my Crafty Fun group, I'm okay with the links if they're in comments, but and I kind of understand the motivation of not wanting links. It's because at least my motivation is because I want my group to be more about just sharing our craft with each other, sharing our creations with each other, and less about advertising and marketing any particular company or brand. Awesome. So before we move on, did anyone else want to share their thoughts on what all is involved with being on a design team outside of making the actual project, and and how much time it takes you, maybe on a weekly
This is
basis.
Helen. Hey, so like for me, it takes me about 6 to 8 hours to create a video.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with my content, I like to make 10 card videos. And in the beginning, like, I'm not gonna lie, it took forever. Like, it would take me maybe 2 or 3 days to design, to film, to edit voiceovers and stuff like that. But after a while, after doing it so many times, I can do it in a day. So I'll design for 3 hours and then I'll edit. Like, editing for me doesn't take long at all. That's like the best part for me. So I think you'll develop your strengths and know your weaknesses. Also, going into design teams, or when I started my YouTube journey, I knew I wanted a blog. I knew I needed an Instagram account, because watching a lot of my favorite YouTubers, that, I refer to those links, if that makes any sense. So I kind of gotten the idea of what I needed to start my channel. And it's a learning process, because you do have to learn how to put your learn affiliate links. If you want to do your affiliate links, you need to know how to put your name on your pictures or editing them. So like, as I look back on my pictures, like, I've seen my growth, because the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And so that's my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on I video. I think it just depends, video versus blog, how much time, and I think they both can be time consuming, and to your point, Helen, it just kind of depends on your strength. So if I find, for me, writing is not really a strength of mine. So blogging, I don't know if it necessarily takes actual amount of time longer, but for me it feels longer because it's harder. And so for me, video editing and producing videos, I agree with your point that the more you do, the the faster you'll get at it, but also you'll find ways to make that process more efficient. And so for me, editing used to actually take quite a long time. But along the way, I found different things that I could do to make that less time consuming. And so now it's not actually like a super laborious thing to do. So it's just one of those things where, whether it's blogging or making videos, um, find places where you can maybe and even like watermarking your photos and stuff like that. All of it. Find ways to kind of make the whole process streamlined. And if you can create, templates or shortcuts or anything, to where like the things that you have to do every single, video, every single blog, every single photo that you take, if you can have those things templatized in any way, or shortcut it in any way, then it'll all kind of go a little bit faster. So we have some comments here. So Marla says many blogs now post minimal info and heavy on photos. Oh, well, that's a relief, because I am not good at writing. Meg says that as a viewer, I prefer video to blog. I'm a visual learner. Yeah, and I kind of think that is one of the reasons why a lot of companies do maintain both, because everybody learns differently. For some people, they prefer to read. For other people, they prefer to kind of see and listen to it being explained. So Caitlin Annalie Cards says, I like writing my blogs in a Google Doc first, so I can add and make changes really easily and then paste it into the blog platform later. Helps me from feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I think, it sounds like you've kind of found something that works for you and makes the process easier for you. So that's awesome. Mommy Guide Inc. says, thanks for all the tips. Editing for me is where I struggle the most. Is that editing videos, Mommy Guide? Or because I also, editing my blog posts takes me a long time too. Choose Joy with Carmen says, blogging is yours and no worries if social media platforms change the rules or go away. Oh, that is a really good point. One that I hadn't considered. So yeah, so if you are creating your own blog, you kind of have your own rules and you don't have to worry about getting put on in any sort of jail or timeout or anything, and it's always going to be there. And well, so long as you want to keep it up. And so that's a really good point. And Danny, is that why you love to blog? Because I know you've been blogging for a long time now. Alicia says, good point.
Good. Sorry, I was kind of, she handed the mouse to me. I got flustered. Sorry. Probably I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, it's something, although I think it was last year, Blogger that I use changed the format and everything. And oh my goodness, they lost some of my photos, but I have them, backed up and stuff. But other than that kind of change, I know what to do. I've been doing it for so long. It's second nature to me. And yeah, the rules don't really change. It is mine. I can put what I want on there and just run with it. So that probably is. It's a really good point.
Oh, awesome. Very, very cool. Okay. Awesome. So, oh wait, just this one. Yeah, Mommy Guiding says, yes, editing videos. That's why I love live streaming, no video editing. Kudos to everyone who can do video editing so fast and well. Well, I don't know that I'm fast at it. I'm just faster than when I first started. Okay, so moving along to our next topic, let's bring up our next question. So if you are on a design team for a company, as opposed to something like a challenge blog, it's typical that you'll get free product from that company, but you may not always get to choose what you craft with. So what happens when you receive something that does not inspire you to create? And what do you do with all of that product after your term? Are you allowed to sell it? So that's a question that I also received from one of my channel members, and I think somebody actually asked it a little bit earlier in the live stream as well. So Danny, I'm going to throw this over to you to start us off on this one. What are your thoughts on this? Let me get the banner going across the bottom, and here we go.
She left me, so I had to do it on my own. Whew, I did it. No. I think one of the most important things is when you are trying to decide if you want to be on a design team or not, make sure you love probably like 95% of their stuff was one thing. I have had over all of the years stuff that I wasn't overly inspired with, but I always, okay, not always, we're honest here. Most of the time I try to be positive and try to look at it like in a different way, or maybe reach out to team members. Hey, what did you do with this? I'm struggling, or, something like that. But I have to say it hasn't really happened a lot because I do tend to try to get, when they are company teams, ones that I absolutely love. And I like most of their stuff. So And then what do you do with it afterwards? You have to be very careful with that because many teams will have contracts that you kind of have to sign, or they're kind of suggested. And like many of the teams that I'm on, you cannot sell the products that you were given. So, and I don't get rid of things. So I have everything. There's been like one time a team didn't want competing things. And I was like, okay, I really like this team. So I got rid of some of my other stamps. And I still regret that to this day. And that was probably over 10 years ago. So I don't get rid of things. But I think you just have to choose and follow by what they say. Like if you're not allowed to sell them, maybe you want to give them away as Happy Mail or, you know, something like that.
Okay. So you can gift them or give them away.
Yes,
it's
but
just
not sell
selling
them.
for money that can be a no-no.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. So Meg says, I enjoy that problem. I just begin and soon it comes down to just having fun with the crafting, not the product. Great point. That's awesome. Meg also says, I have to keep the product because they keep us working with the old product on flashback days. Yeah, and the question was more, you know, after your term ends, you know, on a team, and you're kind of done being a member for them. That was the question from one of my channel members. So Cynthia says, "Crafty hoarders unite, Danny." Absolutely. Anyone else want to field this question on the panel?
I would. So one time, this is a company that, oh my God, I swear I either had everything they had released, and I was so excited. I got to the team, and the first release I get, I opened the box and checked again who was this box from, because they had just decided to go with different designers for their stamps. And they went into a completely different look. And I had no idea what to do. So I decided, my rule is, and I know I tell Lynn this all the time, I always start with the hardest stamp that I look and I say, oh my God, I have no idea. Because that's the one that is flustering and it's going to cost me maybe crafty stress. So I always start with that. And I start like throwing stuff at it, literally like stuff that I know it should not work. And I throw it together to see what it looks like. Because then suddenly you will, yeah, that's the way it goes. You will see that something is, you go like, oh, maybe I can do this. Oh, maybe I can do this. And that's how I get out of that funk of not knowing what to do when I got a package. But the good news is that most of the companies will let you have like a preview of what is coming, which lets you get all raffled and like all freaked out until you get it, and you start getting like looking for ideas. Other ones, it's a surprise box. So, and I think those are the hardest ones when you don't know what's coming. But it's also fun, you know, but again, I always start with whatever I'm crafty stress. Yes, it is real. Hell yeah. So I think I start with the hardest, so that I know after that it's going to be easy going.
Yeah. Monica says,
oh my God.
I know the same thing happened to me. That was the longest 6 months. I guess that was the term, 6 month term.
I know. I was so devastated that they literally cleaned out their designers and they got new designers, and they were amazing designers, but they were not my jam, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel you, Monica. I'm so sorry.
I also I agree with you 100% because I like that you said that sometimes you do get a little bit of a preview of the product, and so you can kind of have that panic moment before you actually have the physical thing in hand. And for me, I mean, I start brainstorming then and there, and try to work through some ideas just in my head. Um, I want to read this. Caitlin Annalie Card says, I've learned the hard way to check before I agree to a DT that I can either pick what I want to use or that I don't have to use every set. And I think that's a really good point, and something that, in case anyone is curious, every design team is going to be a little bit different in terms of what you get to craft with. I've been on teams before where you basically can kind of shop their website and pick exactly what you want to use. And sometimes they not only carry um, their own manufactured or brand product, but they are a retailer of other brands as well, and they leave that open as a choice too. I've been on teams where you have, so that's on one extreme end. Then I've been on teams where there's maybe 10 things that are releasing. You can pick some subset from that release, so you may not get everything, but you can see everything before and you can pick what you want to work with. And then on the other far end of things, kind of like Delise was saying, you get what you get. And you may know in advance, or you may be able to see in advance, or sometimes not. But
Yeah.
they're going to choose for you.
Unfortunately, the companies make the rules, right? So I was part of a team that the contract said you get one of each and of the release, and you get to play with them, but you have to do at least one project per product. In this case, for stamp set or die cut or whichever, which was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like 2 months or 3 months into it, they were having issues with not everyone creating one with each, or everyone using the same image of a stamp set. So it wasn't really promoting the stamp set itself, just one image, and didn't showcase, that should be the right word, showcase the stamp set. So they decided that they were going to do assigned stamp sets, and you had to, like, instead of having 3 stamp sets or 3 stamp sets and 3 projects, or 5 stamp sets with 5 projects, you would have 2 stamp sets with 5 projects.
Oh.
So you have to really use
the same thing
sets
in multiple ways.
Yeah, use mostly all of the image in different cards to showcase. And I see the view and the need for a company to do this, but at the same time, you didn't get to pick which stamp sets you said you got. So it was really, it became hard to, because first you didn't know what you were getting, and when you got it, it was like, now I have to use an image that probably I would have used the other 4 images in a set, but now I have to use them all.
Yeah. And so just curious, Delise, when they made that change, was it kind of midterm or?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was very sudden, and the problem was that they said the change, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. I can kind of understand the company's perspective of needing to show a lot of variety, I guess, or just to showcase, like you said, all aspects of a particular sample set. But I can definitely, from the designer point of view,
And I think that happens. Yeah, it happens more when there are small companies that, they really, if they're giving you 5 sets, they really want you to showcase 5 sets. And when they have samples out there, if the same image is being used by 5 different of your designers, it's really not showcasing their sets, which I totally understand. But at the same time, maybe a less drastic change could have been done in between to see if it could work. So
yeah, good point.
that's just yeah, we could have done like a sign up because we had previews. I'm like, okay, who wants to use this image? Who wants to use this? I'm like, and that way you would have seen more usage of the stamp sets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Okay.
and I do feel like often, what we are kind of more strongly inspired by, it's not only easier, but it's sometimes it's we're gonna be able to showcase that product in its best light. But I do like Barb's point here that sometimes when you're working with something unexpected, that's when you come up with your best ideas, because it does force you out of your box a little bit and take you in a direction that maybe you didn't expect, but then ends up being something you absolutely love. So I think that's a really good point, Barb. And just wanted to welcome Sprinkle with Cards. She says hello to everybody and hello to Helen. Okay, let me bring up this comment from Mama Pillow. She says, curious as to what the brief for some teams is. I really enjoy Lynn's flip videos and when creators make stuff that's not the intended design. How far can you stray and do some DTs not like that? I'm going to take a first stab at this and give my panelists some time to think about this, because I'd love to hear other folks' thoughts on this too. From my experience on the design teams that I've been on, we have not, generally speaking, been given specific design briefs to actually design to, in the sense of, you need to, like, I've never been told, Lynn, please make an interactive card, or anything like that. So it's always been a designer's choice. There have been few occasions where we might have a theme going on. Say Christmas is one that is common that I've been a part of, where maybe there'll be a 25 days of Christmas in December. Maybe there'll be a Christmas in July kind of thing, where the theme is to make a holiday or a Christmas themed project. And I've all of the teams I've been on haven't even strictly said I have to make cards. So even at that, in terms of like tags or mini albums, notebooks, whatever have you, memory decks, cards, things like that, I've never explicitly been told to actually follow a design brief in that sense. So outside of the occasional theme, I can imagine for like a challenge blog, there would be something. So when I was on a team that was for their challenge blog, we did have design briefs that were centered around the theme, in the sense of holiday or occasion, and then also sometimes color palette as well. So I have experienced that too. And so I've never been told by my DT coordinators or managers or a DT owner that that was can you that didn't hit the mark, Lynn, can you try again? So curious. It looks like Danny and or Alicia will take a stab at this.
That's me. And then I just had a momentary lapse of what I was going to say.
Sorry, I threw you off.
I know. No, it's fine. That's what happens when you're old. No, I did want to say I haven't really had anyone say, no, you can't do this. But from the other end of the spectrum, since I do run my challenge team, each person is chosen for a particular style or something. So if you suddenly changed your style, not that it's a bad thing, but they might have chose you just because, like for me, I'm very clean and simple. And when I try to stray from that, sometimes it does not work out well. So they want you to showcase your best work. I mean, they're not going to say, no, don't do that, but just kind of take it like with a grain of salt, I guess, kind of, they chose you for your artwork as you presented it. So don't make sudden changes. And like a couple teams I have been on, there was the company team, but they also had challenges run within it. So again, it would be like, birthday or Christmas, or like you said. I think I have been on a team that did specifically say this time, I want you to focus on this stamp, for example, or something. So you had to use that product, but they didn't really necessarily say exactly how. I guess maybe that makes sense.
Yeah. One sec. I'm going to respond to Meg. You've got a good question, Meg. It's a topic coming up, so hold on to that question. We will be addressing it. I do want to read this real quick from Caitlin Annalie Cards. I think most of the time companies appreciate creative use of their products because it opens it to an even wider audience. The more ways you can use a stamp to stencil, the more reason to buy. And yeah, I think that's why most of the time I just haven't encountered, it's ask though. I think the big thing with some companies is just what products, meaning can you use other brand products on your creations? So so that would be one thing to maybe keep in mind. Okay, Delise, thoughts?
When I read the question, I completely understood something different. So I don't know if that is what she meant also. Like if you have images, like how much you can modify the image to work. There are companies that are all for it. I don't know if any of you follow Alberto. He is part of the MSC design team, and he is amazing with comics. But I see his images, and I'm like, oh my God, can he color them for me? Because I know I don't have the skill and talent that he has to create something out of something completely different from a stamp. I have had teams that there are 100% into transforming images, and I have had teams that it's like you do not modify the image in any way that is break of copyright infringement. So you really have to talk to who the company is and what they really want from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key takeaway that I'm hearing, is just to really understand what the expectations are of and if you don't know, to ask your DT lead or your DT coordinator. Got this wonderful comment from Choose Joy with Carmen. She says, thank you all for this event. I have been with Stampin' Up! Since 1998 and have often wondered if I should leave so I could demo from any company without rules. Yeah, I have heard that Stampin' Up! Does have a lot of restrictions, I think. I've never been a demonstrator, but I've heard that because they have their product line is expansive and comprehensive, they don't really allow you to use other brand items. So I can definitely kind of, I would find it hard if I couldn't use certain brands. And that might be a challenge that is I think for a lot of companies, I definitely understand, especially if they do make all the things that they want you to be using all their things. But that can get a little bit restrictive. Um, and while I can see it, Carmen also says it's good to learn that there are rules everywhere. So this is helping me make a decision. Oh, wonderful. And she says that we are all amazing. Thanks, Carmen. Yeah, the rules are there and they are different for every design team. So it's just a matter of understanding what the expectations are and what their particular rules are. Meg says partial stamping is okay with some of my DT, but haven't tried it with all of them. Yeah, to Delisa's specific understanding of that earlier question from the live chat, yeah, I guess I'm not artistic, so I don't alter I don't alter the stamps. And I think Mama Pillow was, referring to my flip videos because most of the time I don't actually make the thing that the die set was designed to make. And I think there was a good point earlier from Caitlin Annalie Cards that I feel like I'm helping the company so that people can see how you can use that product in a different way. And I feel like for me as a consumer, when I go to buy something, I do try to look at, well, how else can I use this? Because that's a really cute XYZ, but how many times am I going to need an XYZ on a card? And so if I can see a different way to use it or spin it or use parts of it, then I'm more likely to buy it. And so as part of whenever I'm trying to showcase a product for a DT sponsor or company, I try to put out there something different that may not necessarily be how they designed or intended it to be used, because the companies often put out their own videos too. So you're going to see great instructions on how to put it together the way it's meant to be used. Um, so that's my take on that. Monica's got to run. Thank you so much for joining us, Monica. Enjoyed having you in the live chat. And I just want a last chance for anyone else from the panel who'd like to speak on this topic of, if you get something that you right away aren't inspired to craft with, how do you handle that? I will throw in as one last thing, I do find card sketches really useful because I feel like they often kind of break, even if I end up, straying completely away from the original sketch, I do find that at least just starting there, it just like, kind of erases that white canvas. And to Meg's point earlier, just diving in and starting. Sometimes if I don't know what I'm going to do yet, maybe just starting with a sketch, that can help to get some creative juices flowing. Okay, so all right, I'm going to move on to our next topic. And so let me bring up the slides. This is a big one. So setting aside the fact that many craft companies are small businesses, some of which operate outside of the store owner's home even. And as such, they might not have a huge operating budget or marketing budget. There are some companies that do pay their design team. So the question is, should this be the standard? Should DT members be compensated monetarily? If you're strictly looking at the work that a DT member puts in, and we talked about that earlier, it's not just about creating the project, but there's everything else that goes alongside that. So taking that into consideration, how should design team work be compensated? Is free product enough, or should DT members be paid monetarily? And just as a side question, how does a crafter actually earn money from this hobby? So I am going to throw this question to Helen first. So let me get the banner running across the bottom so we remember what our question is. Helen, do you want to take a first stab at this?
Yeah. So I think if you're starting out, like for me, when I first started out, I did not expect to get compensated with cash. I expected to get free product. So I like now as a YouTuber, and I'm still like not seasoned or anything like that, I still feel free product is fair still, because I'm not a big channel. So I think when you're first starting out, I think yes, it's fair for free product. But once you build your audience, you get your followers, and you have stats to prove that you're bringing in this much sale, for example, in your affiliate links, then that's what you can present to the company and say, okay, this is how much sales I'm bringing in, and so on, and how much your statistics based on your following, how many people watches it, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's when compensation comes in my opinion. Um, so yeah. And other ways like crafters can earn income from being a content creator is, you get monetized in YouTube, you can get monetized on Instagram or Facebook. Of course, you can also have your affiliate links through Share Sale. You can sell your crafty projects. You might have a fan out there who loves your work and is obsessed of you that might want to buy your work,
Oh, yeah.
or purchase your, stuff that you don't use anymore. You know what I mean? And you can teach classes at your local community center or craft store. So
Oh.
there's other ways. So that's my take
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, I didn't think to ask this, but I'm kind of curious, any panel members want to answer whether you sell your cards. Do you, Helen?
I do. Like I just started, I posted some of my creations on my Etsy shop. Before YouTube, I already started selling my past cards, and there's a lot of people who like to support handmade or small
Yeah.
businesses on Etsy, and they bought my cards. So
Yay!
don't be afraid to sell your cards, because there are people out there who want to buy your handmade creations just because they like the fact that it's handmade.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yay, you.
I just wanted to, well, I also sell my cards on Etsy. It's a love-hate relationship, but it is a very specific thing. I've been doing it, well, off and on for years, but trying harder for the last 2 years, and I'm getting more and more sales. So I think it's just a process. And then I also wanted to say that it is kind of a double-edged sword with getting all the free product when you're on design teams, because sometimes companies are very, very generous and it gets very overwhelming with all the product. And for me, I'm like, if they gave this to me, I feel I need to use it. And there's no way I can use all that I get sometimes. So sometimes it's a double-edged sword as to whether you want it all. I mean, I guess you just have to do what's best for you. But for me, it gets very overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you on that for sure. We've got some questions about Etsy. So for panel members who have sold or do sell on Etsy, Cool Cakes and Crafts with Amalia would like to know, is setting up an Etsy store easy? And just a second question from Heather, where is the best platform for selling? I've heard mixed things regarding Etsy. So Danny, do you want to take a stab at that?
I haven't really tried anything other than Etsy. And then I also had a private Facebook group, both have their pros and cons. Etsy is super easy to set up. They walk you through everything. They take care of your taxes, which was huge for me because I don't want to mess with that. And they also offer ways to help promote you and stuff. It does cost, but you can also set what you want to pay to, like promote yourself. It is very mixed because there is kind of algorithms a little bit there and stuff. So other than that, I haven't tried anything than those two. My Facebook group did really well, but the audience is limited then because I did it privately. So it's only people that I knew or that invited. And so it kind of fizzled out. I mean, there's only so many cards the same people need all the time. So
yeah. Okay. Good point. That's good to know. I did not know that Etsy has its own algorithm also, but I guess that makes sense. It's been a while since I've been on Etsy.
This is Helen. So like setting up an Etsy account is so super easy. The fees are not even too expensive. It's like 20 cents, I think. You get advertisement through Google if you want, but there will be an advertising fee, but it's not much either. If you want something that's easy to track, easy to just print a shipping label from Etsy, that's the way to go. Because like if you post your, for example, when I was destashing stuff, I had to keep track of that. Like, I mean, all the time, and I couldn't keep track of it. The downside is, yes, you're gonna pay for the fees on Etsy versus if you're gonna list it on a group on Facebook, for example. So you have to keep in mind, like, how much time do you have to commit to selling your products? And if you're going to commit to it, are you willing to sell consistently to put out new product like your cards? So you have to think about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love this comment from Caitlin Annalie Cards. She says that I think a big thing to consider too is if you are creating for your own platform or for the company's use. If they own the content, you should be compensated. That is a really good point, and I never thought about it that way, but now that you say it, it makes sense 100%. So one thing that you may find that's different from design team to design team is where are you posting your content? So if it's a video, whose YouTube channel are you posting that to? The company's YouTube channel or your own? If it's a blog, are you posting it to the company's blog or your own? And I think Kim at the outset also mentioned that some of her design teams actually require that she actually sends her physical cards, the projects that she makes to them, and so they physically now own it and have possession of it. And I think Caitlin's point is well taken. My thought on this question is that, yes, I understand that a lot of craft companies are small. And so, like I prefaced this question at the beginning, setting that aside 100%. So, setting aside that lots of these companies are small, they're women-owned. I love to support small and women-owned. And so if we just take that out of the equation and we're just looking strictly at the work that goes into not just the creation of the project itself, but everything that comes with it. So producing the video, writing the blog post, taking photos, then sharing all of that. I do think that free product is wonderful, but that just comes, I mean, that's their marketing. That's kind of how they're going to get, their examples of their product shared. And so that's kind of giving you the tools with which to work, the actual products. But for the work that you're actually doing, I sort of land on the side of, yes, I do think that design team work should be compensated. And I like the distinction that Caitlin is making in the sense of, well, if I'm posting the video to my own channel, I am benefiting from that, because my channel is hopefully gaining views and subscriber growth. So I think that's a nice kind of distinction in terms of who is actually kind of receiving the product of my work. So if the product of my work is the physical card plus the video, and it's going into their hands in terms of the physical card or into onto their channel, I think that's an even stronger argument that maybe the work that I put into producing those things for them should be monetarily compensated. And all of that being said, of course, and this is why I caveated the question, it's understandable that stamp companies, at least when they're starting, can't afford to pay design team members. And so getting paid in product is their way of compensating you. And so I definitely see both sides of it, but if like I said, if I had to set aside the fact that a lot of companies are small and they just don't have the budget, they would love to but just can't. That's sort of my take on it. I don't know if anyone else on the panel wanted to speak to that. I do have, let's see. Oh, just going back to selling here. Choose Joy with Carmen says she totally agrees with Danny. Thought about selling from blog, but then having to take care of the taxes and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why I've never gotten into selling my own cards, because one, to Helen's point, you kind of have to commit to like putting out products to sell. and so there's that commitment, and then there's everything that goes along with it, sales tax and all of that too.
I just wanted to jump on real quick, since we are talking about selling. A very important thing to always check is, if you're using a stamp, to make sure that the company that made the stamp has an angel policy that will allow you to sell, because there's a lot that don't.
Yeah.
And you can get in trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think most do though, right, Danny? But you should look for that, and the term you're looking for, Danny says, is angel policy. So
actually, there's quite a few that do not allow it. So it is really, most do, but some have some very specific rules about what has to be put on the back of the card, like, the copyright or whatever. Some require you use an actual physical stamp that they sell. Some absolutely positively not. Some yes to craft fair, some no to online sales. So it's just very good to look for their angel policy to find out, so you don't get in trouble.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay, that is that is good to know. So lots of things to keep in mind before diving into selling your own cards. The other thing I wanted to touch on, which was the kind of last part of the question, how can crafters actually earn money? Helen touched on this a little bit as well. Some companies, but not all, do have an affiliate program. And if you're not familiar, what that is essentially, it's the company's agreement that or platform where you can create links to their products in their shop that are coded to identify that the link is coming from you. And if somebody clicks on your link and ultimately purchase something, anything, whether it was the original product that was linked to or something else entirely, the company has agreed to kind of, pay the creator or the person who generated the link a commission on that sale. And so that's a great way to share, to support your favorite content creator because it doesn't cost you any extra money. It's just an agreement between the company and their affiliates that they are willing to share in that kind of revenue. So if you design or you're on a design team, maybe if ask or check to see if they have an affiliate program. And a lot of times people, they want to know what you're using. And so I think that was one of the things that was hard for me in the sense of like, okay, asking people to like my videos, asking people to subscribe, asking people to use my links and all of that stuff. But if making money as a crafter is one of your goals, there's that level of comfort that that you're just gonna have to reach. And I think if you're not super, like if it's not a hard sell, I don't think it comes off badly. And that's just my take. But I do know that there are some design teams that do pay, um and a lot of times they do want your physical card, and so it's almost they pay kind of on a per card, like however many cards you make. It's almost like you're selling your cards to them. So I think that's another fair way of looking at it as well. Yeah, Meg says, I keep forgetting about the affiliate link. Yeah, add them to your post, Meg. If you are part of an affiliate program, you should definitely put your links out there so we can support you. Okay, so panel, any last thoughts on whether DT work should be compensated before we move on?
One more thing is that if your contract with the company does not say anything about shipping cards to them, and they do ask you to ship card, you should ask them to have an addendum to the contract where it specifies that they're going to send them back to you if you want them back or if you're going to be compensated for them. I was naive enough that one of my my DTs, they asked me to send them all the cards that I had made, and they paid for shipping, and I sent them all, and I never got them back. Neither was I compensated for them.
Oh, yeah, that's what was the expectation they gave you? I mean, was it your understanding you would get them back?
Yeah, the expectations were that I was either getting them back, or if they decided to get to keep some for their shows, that they would pay $10 per card.
Oh, so they said that, but then you never. So they did reimburse you for shipping. They wanted all your cards. If they chose to keep some to showcase at their shows, they would pay you $10 a card. And the expectation that you had was they would send you back the rest. But that never happened. Yeah. Oh.
Neither.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that experience, because I have been I haven't been in that exact situation because I've been fortunate that anytime somebody has requested a card from me, I've known that either I'm not gonna get it back and not gonna get paid for it, or because I've never actually been on a team where they have required that I send cards to them. I get the very occasional, hey, we need cards for an upcoming show. Could if anyone has any, can you please send them and we'll reimburse. But I do, just in terms of another like potential way that you could earn money. I've been on a team before where if you do get published, like if your card gets published in a magazine, there will be like a little bonus, a little cash bonus. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, some companies do, especially I know a long time ago this scrapbooking companies would do that. So one of the international ones that I had is if you got published in anything that was paper, like they were printed, again, this is 15-20 years ago when like magazines were a big deal. You would get $50 for each item that got published, and if it was published and digitally in a e-magazine, you would get 25, which
Oh wow,
for me that was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, I think. Oh, this is cool. Cynthia says, when I was published in past scrapbook magazines, you mail the physical page, and then I would pray I would get those pages back. But they did pay up to $100 per layout. That I had no idea. Maybe I need to get into scrapbooking. That's cool. I've only been published in a magazine one time, and it was a DT project, and so the DT sponsor did give me a little bonus because that was in the contract, and so so that was really cool. And then on top of that, the magazine didn't give me any money, but they did send me like a little goodie bag, like lots of little crafty goodies. So that was pretty cool. Hey, not too shabby shops in the house. Is that you, Jamie? Welcome. Mama Pillow says, I miss magazines. Oh, Cynthia. She says most of those magazines don't exist anymore. We have Double Wow and Triple Wow. Yeah, everybody wants to know about these magazines, Cynthia. Yeah, that's a bummer that it doesn't they're not around anymore. I have to admit though, I am online most of the time when I'm looking for crafty inspiration, and so like I like the physical magazines, but I've never subscribed to one either, so I feel bad. But Cynthia says she was referring to the Creating Keepsakes and Scrapbook, etc. magazine. All right. Okay, so with that, I will go ahead and move on to our next topic. So let me go ahead and oh wait, did you have a last? No audio, no audio.
No, I was just getting ready for the next question.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Next question. So I think it's safe to say that we all love a lot of things about being on a design team, and I think that's particularly evident by the long history some of us have with being on one. But as with most things, there's some good with the bad. So, what's something you like the least about being on a design team? And let me get our question ticker across the bottom and we'll switch over. So, Alicia, do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. And I would have to say most of what I'm going to say now has already been covered. I don't know that it's what I like the least, but it's what I find hardest. And that would be getting something that might not inspire me, or a company that narrows down so much or assigns things. I really like to be free. I like to be able to use something else I own. But then, kind of going with that though, like, if you would send me a stamp of a realistic looking person, that would scare me. But with Danny, that would be fine,
Yeah, I'd be
right?
excited.
I just, yes, I just love, I like to be able to do, like, be myself. So just like if you're assigned specific things that maybe aren't your style. But I think that's all I could come up with.
This is such a hard question because for the most part, I love being on design teams, but there's been probably more than a handful that I have not enjoyed. One of them was very toxic. I still have PTSD from it. I think the main thing that makes me not like a design team is lack of communication, or when there's like favorites or something like that. But it's not all the time, but it does happen.
And can you expand a little on what you mean by favorites?
They promote other team members over you, basically. Like,
Okay. So,
and I mean, sometimes I totally understand, like if they've been with a company for as long as the company started, by all means. But I have been on teams that they wanted me, they approached me, and then like when they were sharing things, they never shared one of my cards.
yeah, I've been in that boat too.
So, I mean, it just, if you wanted me, then want me, and, I can help promote you. But if you didn't want me, then just be honest and tell me. Everything just comes down to communication, I think, in the end.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And Cool Cakes and Crafts with Amalia says that that's unfortunate that you had to go through that. And I hear you on that too. I think I've been in that position as well where and I think this is kind of more the the exception as opposed to the rule. I think most companies are very, I mean, they want as much stuff out there. That's why they want a design team.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I kind of have always just thought that, well, when I look at my stuff, because I tend to do stuff that's like a little different, I could see why my projects are like maybe not on brand, so to speak. So then I kind of just chalk it up to maybe that's why because there's, especially on Instagram, there are some companies that like curate their wall like very carefully. And so if it's not like something that's on, I'm putting that in air quotes, but I'm not on camera, so you don't see it. So it's quote unquote on brand for them. I can totally understand. So that's what I chalk it up to, but it for sure doesn't feel good. So we have Viva Lola Vlogs. Welcome, and she says sad. Yeah. I think that's rough also. And I'll be the next to answer and give a little bit of time for any other panelists who would like to take a stab at this question. The thing that I like the least is, and I think this sort of fits in with Danny's point about communication. I'm a program manager, project manager, so running schedules and getting a team to deliver to a schedule, that's my jam. That's kind of my wheelhouse. And so for me, especially not crafting full time and having to kind of fit this in where I can as a hobby, what I find the most challenging is disorganization and things things coming in last minute. Because for me to make this work, in terms of, being on a design team, I like to know, what my responsibilities are, and that's the only way I can kind of stay on top of them. But you can't stay on top of something that you don't um know. Like, you don't have the product yet, you don't know when the release is coming. There are some design teams that are like so well run, it's clockwork. And so I really, really appreciate those teams, because I can get my stuff, I can get my act together, I can get everything done when they want it done, and I don't feel stressed on teams like that. It's understandable that, especially with COVID and all the things that have happened with, shipping, manufacturing, the postal system and all of that. So I definitely understand that, getting product in hand is can be hard, to do that as early as companies would like. And I know that everybody, tries really hard to not put their team, in a scramble. But if it's the occasional thing, I think that I'm happy to deal with that. But if that's how the group is, I feel like that's tough for me. It's very hard for me personally, because I'm a planner and I like to I like to get things done early. So for me, that would be the thing that is hardest. It's just the, getting all of the information, when I want it. And I know that's not always possible. So that would be my answer to this question. Um, anyone else on the panel want to take a stab at this?
This is Helen. The least favorite thing about design teams for me is taking away my freedom of liking projects. Like when they make me do it. Does that make sense? Like, of course I'm gonna like their projects, but if you're gonna tell me to do it anyway, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I just feel like I should have my own opinion about things, if that makes any sense.
Oh, like if they tell you you have to go in and
Yes,
like
like
leave a
go in
like,
and
or
like, or leave a
yeah.
comment, force me to leave a comment, stuff like that. Like that to me is kind of taking away my right of my opinion about things. Like, don't make me write something. You know what I'm saying? That to me is not right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, I have never been in that situation before, but I could totally understand where you're coming from on that. Oh, I have been in that situation. Um, oh, but it was a challenge blog, so I think it's a little bit different, and they set that expectation. So, but I don't know if this is different from what you're describing, because we were it was the expectation that that um if you like, I think different team members were assigned different days, and you would have to kind of go in and like or comment on people who submit it to the challenge. So that might be a little bit different, but Gina agrees with you. She says, totally agree,
Yeah,
Helen. You are
I
your own
just feel
person.
like, yeah, it wasn't even in the contract either. They
Yeah.
revised the contract like in the middle of my term,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was one thing that was added, and I just felt like that was kind of a bit overboard. Like I know I'm representing the company, and of course I'm going to like the projects, but is that really necessary to add that? you know what I mean, to force us to do that. Like, that's just
Yeah.
how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear you on that. And Meg says, yes, Helen, that happens on one team too. Have to comment on all Facebook groups on all posts. It is too much. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Mama Pillow, you said it. Compelled speech. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I think I don't know. I'm willing to kind of put out there that maybe they want that because to a point that was made earlier, it's all about engagement and they want good engagement. But I do feel like you know, you don't need to twist twist our arms to do it and like make it be a like a mandatory thing because I think we all want to be good team members and like you said we're going to do it. It's just a little bit it might be a little bit overkill to kind of force it and put it in the contract. Yeah, absolutely. Any last panel members who want to join on this one before we move on? Hey girl.
Hey. Okay, two things. One kind of goes with what was already said is when there's favorites, I think just having different rules for different people, it's very, very toxic. I got in trouble. I got in trouble one time because I was doing something that my teammate was doing, and the answer was, "Well, you're not allowed." There was nowhere that what I was doing said that it couldn't be done. First of all, and they were like, "Oh, you can't do that." And I'm like, "Okay, so I'm confused because I see other people doing it.
Wow.
So, oh, they are allowed." And I'm like, well, this is seriously going to save me hours in my side of doing things. Why are there rules for some people? And like that really, that was mind blowing to me.
Yeah. That's sorry you had to be in that position because that would suck if the rules weren't the same for everybody.
Yeah, and then you didn't know which side of the fence you were. The other thing is exactly that. So if a company comes to you and they ask you, well, what do you guys think of doing this? And you know for a fact that it makes no sense, but people are kissing butts. There's no other way to saying it. Right? Let's be honest.
We're here to be honest.
Yeah, they're trying to look like the perfect DT member, and then later you see them struggle. But you're like thinking, then you can't say anything because when you say anything, you are, what is it, negative Nelly?
Yeah.
In some groups, I would say, well, I don't think that's going to work because of this. Maybe we should try something else. Maybe we could try this. I'm like, oh, there goes negative Nelly. And so at that point, you're like, do you really tell them what you think, or do you just stay back? Because mind you, sometimes when it blows in their face, you're like, negative Nelly was right.
Yeah, it's you're getting a lot of support from our chat. Thank you, chat. You're so wonderful. Lots of folks in your camp. And yeah, I think that's rough when I can totally see if you're being asked for honest feedback and you give that honest feedback and then it's not you're kind of like the only one And then to your point, you're kind of seen as the person who's like gonna kind of Debbie Downer is the other one, negative Nelly Debbie Downer. No offense to anyone named Debbie or Nelly. And then to your point, you start to wonder, well, should I even say anything next time? Because, I don't want to be, seen as a negative person. I'm just trying to be helpful and honest. So yeah, totally get you on that. And I think it's terrible if one set of rules apply to some members and another set applies to others. Like I have been in situations where if there's a particular rule, but you could ask for an exception, as a one-off, for example. And so sometimes, I've asked for an exception and I've been granted that, but I've never had a blanket, exception to the rule that everybody else was held to. So that would be terrible to find yourself kind of on the short end of the stick on that one.
It was very awkward.
Yeah. Sorry you had to go through that.
That's
Okay. It sounds like you're doing all right now, though. All right. So, let me move us along to our next question. So, our next topic is, now when you're on a design team, usually we've all kind of mentioned this already, referred to it, is you'll be asked to join for a set length of time or duration, what's typically referred to as a design team term. And so this can be, I've seen as short as 3 months, I've seen as long as 1 year. So it's really, that's going to differ between teams as well. And so the question is, other than maybe family issues or health issues, when is it time to step down from a team? And one of my channel members would like to know if you have to step down before your term is over. And I saw Meg ask this in the chat as well. She was actually the one who submitted this. How do you do so gracefully without burning bridges? And so let me go ahead and get the question ticker up. And I'm going to throw this question to Delise first. So Delise, what are your thoughts on this?
I think when it's time to walk away. I think there's a period of time of adjustment, and I think everyone should give it a time of adjustment because every job that you have, they have different rules, right? But once you get that little birdie on your ear telling you this is not right, that's the moment when you should step down. Now, make sure that you learn how your team works. They usually send the packages at a certain time, like this many weeks before a release. Make sure that you don't have a package in the coming. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row for that month or for that release before you go and tell them, you know what, this is not working for me. Should you do it? Yes. Did I do it? No.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a question from Helen as to whether you walked away from that team.
I should have, but I gave the person the benefit of the doubt. They're working from their house. It's like Lynn said, it's a women-owned company. I really thought I was helping them, and I didn't realize that that they didn't see it as a help. They didn't see me as a person.
Hmm.
Ever since you start, you just get tick marks, and you don't know even that you're getting tick marks against your name. So yeah, as soon as you get that, we all get them, that little feeling that is not right, just run for the hills. Sometimes if you need
So,
to burn a bridge, just burn the bridge and start building new bridges next to it.
oh, well, I love that you said that. That's great. And I kind of have a follow-up question for you.
Hmm.
Do you feel like you have to explain yourself when you are resigning from a team? Like, do you feel like you have to tell them why?
You know what? I think it's fair to explain to them what is not working. I don't think you need to explain them why personally you are stepping down, because it's two different things, right? It could be like you can tell them, well, having things come in 4 days before release, to have a release, to have things photograph, video, and it's just not in my schedule. In my personal opinion, I think that's disrespectful, but I wouldn't put that.
So just stick to the facts, not
Exactly. Try not to be so. Do not get anything feeling wise of you in that resignation letter, because they might never even see it.
Yeah,
So,
okay. That's a rough one. Thanks for sharing that
and
experience, and also go ahead.
I think it's a very personal thing. Like, seriously, if you feel like you need to burn the bridge, hashtag self-care, because nobody's gonna take care of you unless you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Good point. Okay. I've got Danny and Alicia ready to go on this question.
That's me.
Okay.
Since I've been doing this so long and I've been on so many teams, I can honestly say I've left graciously and I've left not so graciously. I've learned a lot through the years. You do get a sense when it's not working, and you can either just leave, or you can, like I've said, everything, communication. I was just telling Crafty out here that one team I was on, they didn't like the way that I linked their blog hop to my blog. And that was when I was younger, and I flew off the handle, and I left the team that day, and I never spoke to them again, and they went out of business a month later. But anyways, so I have to say that I was not a good team member. Sometimes I flew off the handle. As I've matured and aged, I feel I've gotten more gracious. Plus, running my own teams, I'm kind of on the other side, so I kind of understand now. But communication, reach out, tell them what's going on. Oh my goodness, I took on too much. Own it, if that's the case, or whatever. And, work with them. Do you want me to leave now? Do you want me to stay on for another month? What do you want me to do? Yeah, like I said, I know I've left some teams very, very dishonorably, I guess you could say, but other teams, I feel I've done the right thing. So,
that's awesome. I'm glad that you can share multiple multiple ways you've approached it.
Yeah. And you just get, especially, every team is not going to be for every person. My experience with a team might be the worst thing on the earth, whereas you might absolutely love that team. I think in the last chat that we did with this, Marla put it, when you leave, don't talk negative about it.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut, because again, your experience might be different from someone else's, and you don't want to, spread gossip or anything like that. But yeah, I have been on both sides. And I've done, like I said, I've done things on impulse that I've regretted. Some I didn't. And I've also learned and I've done it the right way too.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I want to speak a little bit to this too. I think in terms of, when do you know it's time? I can't agree more with both you and Delise, but I'll give you something specific to Mark. Um, if let's say the design team coordinator or design team owner, whoever your main point of contact is, if they message you and you feel dread or you know what I mean, like you it causes you stress, then maybe that's a very concrete sign that it's not the right environment for you. So I've been in situations where I've felt like, I get an incoming message and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to know what this is going to be about. And so I think, being kind of aware of whether you are still finding joy in what you're doing as a design team member for that team, or if it's actually causing you stress, and trying to be attuned to that, because for many of us who are not full-time crafters, we are trying to find chunks of time to fulfill our obligations. And so that's time, I think, to one of the folks in the live chat who, and Kim spoke to this a little too, it's time away from everything else. It's time away from your work, your family, your household chores. And so when that time starts to become onerous and starts to become stressful, I think you really have to question whether you need that in your life. And to Delisa's point, self-care is important. And I know Danny has talked about this a little bit too, in the sense of, choosing to do the things that you enjoy doing. And so if, creating videos isn't something you enjoy doing, then, kind of owning that decision and putting your time into the things that you do enjoy. So I think that's kind of, how I feel about that. And how to do it gracefully. The I think there's a couple of things, and I'm gonna concur with Danny on the point of, if it's a team that you enjoy and products that you love, there's just a couple of different aspects that you wish could be better. Having that conversation honestly with your first point of contact, whether that's the DT coordinator, DT lead, owner of the company, and seeing if they can do something to accommodate. Because if it's a team that you enjoy, but there's just a couple things that make it hard for you, then maybe they can work with you on that. Or maybe it's something they're not even aware is an issue for their team. And so I think giving them that first opportunity to create a better experience, a better environment, whatever it happens to be, especially if it's a team that you enjoy being on. I think that's a good first step. And then if it's really bad, then I think that you should feel free to walk away, even if it's before your term is over. And I personally have, one time a friend of mine said to me, she said that she's really working on, not when she has to say no, not to always feel like she needs to explain herself. you have a right to say no, and you actually don't need to explain or justify that necessarily in all situations. And so when she told me that, it stuck with me because I feel like, and this is outside of DT stuff, but I feel like even if I say no to like a coffee date or something, I always have to, I feel like I always have to have a really good reason, and I feel like I always have to explain why. And I feel like that's a choice that you have, and sometimes the reason why you have to step down is a very personal one. And I've heard from DT owners who've said, you know, Lynn, it's your choice, thank you for letting us know why, but you really don't have to, DT members come and go, and we know that, and you don't have to feel bad about having to walk away. You don't have to feel like you owe us any sort of explanation. And I was really grateful for that. So I'm a little on the fence as to, the question that I asked Elise, do you feel like you have to explain yourself? Because I always feel like I do, but then I've been told, from some very gracious DT owners, oh, totally understand. You don't have to explain. That's your choice. That's your right. So I just wanted to, put that out there for what it's worth. Okay. Let's see if I missed anything. Delise, yes.
One last thing. Look for red flags. If when you come in during your term, the old DT members are all leaving at the same time, that might be a red flag.
Yeah, but you're already there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's hard sometimes because, like, I know you guys say, and I believe me, I do believe in communications, but when there is no communication at all, or you're sending and you're not receiving anything, it's very hard to leave in good terms.
Yeah. I can totally see how that can be really rough. So just want to check with the rest of the panel, see if anyone else wanted to talk on this topic before we move on to the next, and it will be the last topic before open Q&A. So, are you getting ready, Alicia, or do you have a last
No,
comment?
I just had something kind of to go in with everybody else about how you choose to leave. Keep in mind that many of the people that are on design teams or the company owners, they kind of all know each other. Like they're on multiple design teams or they lead multiple design teams. So if you are going to go out with a bang, keep that in mind if you ever want to get on a different team. Yeah. Or if you're going to go badmouth them, just don't do it. It's probably not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good reminder because and I'm glad that there are folks who are kind of sharing my thoughts also on having to say no, but follow it with an excuse. Yeah, and that can't be stressed enough. Alicia, your point and Danny's point that the crafty community is, as large as it seems, it is also small and well connected. And as Danny put earlier, the you just want to be careful, what you say. If you want to continue to be on design teams, or especially since I think Marla's point is and the one that Danny reiterated, it's just your opinion, and that is what I also want to, I said it at the outset, but I'll underscore it now. Everything we're sharing, it's really just our opinion, and everybody's perspective is different and is guided by our own personal experiences in and out of our design team work. And so, what Danny said was very true. Like, one environment for one person could feel very toxic, but that very same environment somebody else could really thrive in. So, everything that you're hearing us talk about, bear that in mind, that, the things that we've been a part of, they aren't the rule or indicative of design teams as a whole. And also, our perspective and how we feel about those experiences is very personal. And it may be very different for other folks who were in the same or similar situation or the same team. So lots of thank you for that reminder. And Terry, welcome. Terry says leaving design teams for any other interaction, you'll never go wrong by being gracious. Yeah, absolutely. Kathy, welcome. Kathy says the high road is always the right road. Yeah, and I think I saw Meg say it earlier to underscore Delisa's point too, that just keep it, don't make it personal. Don't make it about just keep to the facts. Okay, so I think Kim might have to leave us in a moment here, but I did want each of our panel members before they leave to kind of pass on what's the one thing that they have kind of learned or taken away or gained, or the one thing that they value most from their design team experience. What is that? And second, if there's one piece of advice that you can give to folks who are trying to get onto a design team, what would that be? So Kim, before you go, can you just let us know your thoughts on those two topics?
Absolutely. So sorry that I have to bounce early. I don't want to make excuses, but the animals are calling my name. It's feeding time. Most valuable lesson learned for me, and this was a hard one. When I was selected for a design team, I was selected for a reason, and I have to remember that. It's real easy to compare. For me, I can only speak for me, but it's very easy for me to compare myself to others and be like, why'd they choose me? Clearly they saw something in me. And at the same time, they chose me for a reason. Don't let somebody change my style. And that's been a very real struggle for me recently. And it is it's kind of how it goes. And I just have to keep reminding myself that they saw something in my work. Sometimes I don't know what, but yeah. And then top advice for getting on a DT: don't give up. If
Good one.
you don't get picked up, keep applying. It'll happen. So I know it can be very discouraging. I've been there many times. Keep applying, whether it's that company, whether it's a different company. You'll find the right fit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And yeah, take care of your fur babies and your farm animals. I'm gonna drop a link to Kim's Instagram again. So for folks who joined us midstream, that's where you can find Kim. She is kim.creates on Instagram. Thank you, Kim, for joining us. And if you have to bounce, feel free to bounce. I am going to bring up our next question, and this will be our last topic, our last planned topic before open Q&A. So, okay, so as amazing as it is to be on design teams, do you have any regrets at all? And knowing what you do now, is there anything that you would do differently? So I am going to throw that question to Alicia first. So
Yes. First of all, it is a lot of fun being on a design team. I think for myself, I think maybe what would have done differently is not try to apply so many and then get on so many. So I think I'm at a good place now, where I can still do my own thing, and make videos just for myself or post things just for myself. But there was a point where it's like, nope, I can't do this with you because I need to go downstairs and make a video, or I have to do this and do tomorrow. So just maybe overcommitting myself.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. But what's tough though is that so I guess my question, and this might be different for you now versus you years ago, but when you apply to a team, do you assume you're going to make it onto the team, or do you assume you're not going to?
For myself, no, I don't have the highest self-esteem about what I do. So no, it would be a total shock if I applied and made it on.
And I have to say that my regrets are probably in my earlier crafting days, I did want to be on every team under the moon, and I wasn't choosy. And so I did go on a lot. I left a lot, and it was, I don't know, not a bad experience, but I feel I could have done better. Now I am way more choosy. And now that I know, I've given this not working thing a year now, so I know a little bit better about what my time is and what I want to do. So I'm in a really good place. But yeah, I would definitely not apply on everything. And on the same question, I never expect to get on a team and I get turned down a lot. I also have kind of stopped applying a lot much. I'm finding after all these years of doing it, I'm finally in a really good place where I don't feel I need to. I don't know. It's kind of a weird realization, I guess, or something for me.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, and I know this wasn't planned, but just as a follow-up question, so you say that you're choosy. What is it you're looking for when you're deciding whether or not to apply?
Funny, it's kind of like what you said. I don't even know what question at this point, but that you're a very structured person, and I need to know that I will be given a schedule of what I need to do. If it's a post every week, does it have to be on the same day or a different day? If it's a new release, when do I get the products? How much time do I have? Things like that. I need it to be a very organized team, like you said. I've been on some teams where my head spun because it just was so random and scattered, and I can't do that. So I'm very choosy. I ask questions now. I never used to ask questions. I get on a team and I'm like, I got on a team, yay! But now, before I actually accept, I'm like, so what happens if this, or what about this, or
that was going to be my next question. Are those things typically advertised in DT calls, and how do you go about finding that out if they're not?
No, they're typically not, but I have just learned after all this, and I don't know, I guess I've kind of like found myself. I sound like I've changed, but I don't know. But yeah, I think I speak up for myself more now, and I do, like if it's the company owner or the coordinator or whatever, typically I ask, what do I need to do? Is this, how soon do I get the things and stuff like that? So
yeah, so just ask, before
just ask.
Before you agree. Yeah. Good advice.
Oh, and one more thing I just thought of. If you're kind of not unsure about a company, ask about being a guest designer. It's the best way to figure out if it's going to be a fit for you or not. If you can try it out for like a month and see. And after that month, maybe you part ways and maybe you don't.
So just curiosity, is it poor form? Is it rude at all if you apply, they invite you, can you turn it down?
You can turn it down. I have. And
Cool.
I mean, do it graciously, as we've said, professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, several teams, after I've, really looked at it and stuff, I just say, after thinking about it, I don't think I would be a good fit for your team. I will still continue to support you, but I'm going to decline at this moment.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe add something, I'll keep you in mind, or maybe you can keep me in mind for future calls or something like that.
Or do the guest,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because that is definitely something that I know personally I've wondered in terms of what is good form. And if I liken it to going on a job interview, when you're on the interview, you get an opportunity to interview them just as much as they are interviewing you. But when you're applying for a DT, you submit an application, they're reviewing your social media, your work and whatnot. And you don't necessarily, unless you do what you just advised, if you don't ask questions, you haven't really had that chance to interview them back.
And
to
it's
see it, because I've landed on teams where if I had asked the right questions, I might have said no.
Right. And it's taken years for me to get, like I said, I'd apply and I'd get the email back. Yes, we'd love to have you on our team. And I'd run around circles going, yay. Yeah. And then a week later, I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So I've just learned kind of, and I guess because I've been in the crafting, blogging, design team world long enough, I do know a lot of the company owners and stuff. So I do just reach out. I saw that Carmen asked, can you ask your questions before you apply? By all means, if you're interested, post to their social medias, Facebook or whatever, and then maybe private message them or something. I'm really looking at this. Is this something you can elaborate? Can you tell me what I need to do? And so on.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. And Carmen, I do that all the time because not every design team call that's put out there lists all the things like how many projects are expected. Even something like that isn't a standard in terms of when folks put out DT calls. So I always try to ask a lot of the really basic questions before I apply, because I don't want to waste their time either. Like, I don't want them to have to watch any of my videos or scan my social media platforms if I can't even meet their minimum requirement. And I'm like you, Danny. Like, when I first started applying, as soon as I got the invitation to join, I'm running around circles telling my husband, super excited. And I know now that I've been on a few different teams how different they all are. And so I now, having had the experience of being on a few, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series, I know how, because if you've never been on a team before, like when I was applying for my first design teams, and I didn't know any other crafters, so I didn't know anyone else who had been through it. I had no idea what to expect. And so that first team, I thought, okay, this is how they go. This is how a design team is like. And then when you're on a few different ones, you really do see how differently each one is run, how and then you get a sense for yourself what you like, what grooves with your schedule, with your style, with your personality, with your time. And so, and that's going to be different for everybody. That's, so I think that's one of the things where I wouldn't have known the right questions to ask in those early days, but I feel now, with a little bit of experience under my belt, I do like to ask those questions. And so I kind of have a question for the panel that's on this topic related, but sorry I didn't send it out earlier. Is it okay to ask like former or current design team members, like if you applied to such and such company's design team, is it okay to approach members current or past to solicit, get their opinion?
I would just say that, maybe if if Danny was on a team, I'd be like, you know what, would you reapply? Ask them without maybe looking for gossip if it's something they would do again. And it might give you a better idea.
Yeah, that's telling in and of itself sometimes.
But also keep in the back of your mind, Crafty Al and I are both crafters. I love to color, most of you know. She does not. So maybe I left a team because they didn't have images I could color. I may not reapply. That might be the perfect team for her. So kind of keep it in mind, what they're leaving for might not be the reasons you would not necessarily want to be on that team.
Yeah. As experienced design team members, how would you feel if somebody approached you? Like, would you be open to somebody saying, I'm thinking about applying to this team. I know you've been on it before. Is it a well-structured timeline? If they ask you something like that, is that...
I have had people reach out to me, and actually pretty recently, about different teams, and I try to keep it very generic. I do know one of the persons that reached out to me. I know her pretty well. I know her style and everything. And so I did offer her, reach out, get your own sense of it, but then try to maybe to be a guest designer or something, because I didn't know quite how it would work with her or whatever. And she did get back to me and she's like, thank you, that was good advice, because it really didn't work for me and stuff. So I mean, if you know the person, you can give maybe a little bit more detailed, but otherwise, again, just generalize. But I never don't want anyone to ask me.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
I think it would depend on our level of knowledge of each other. If somebody I kind of casually knew on the internet reached out to me, I would be very PC, give basic facts. But then if Danny reached out to me,
right.
Like, girl, don't do it.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Like, if it's somebody that you might get a little something with that in mind, because there's a relationship there. But it is good to know that you're both kind of open to people reaching out to you. It's just how you respond and what you say is going to be determined by how close you are to that person and how well you might know them. And that's totally understandable. So, for folks out, because folks have reached out to me, especially since starting this series, and I'm open to it for sure. Reach out to me. Even if it's specifically, about a team, but keep in mind that, kind of like what Alicia said, my answer is gonna have to be a little bit PC, just to respect the terms of my contract, but it should be telling if I'm still on the team and I've been on that team for a while. If you're looking for if you're looking to know whether or not I enjoy it, I think that would speak volumes, because I wouldn't stay on a team if it didn't bring me joy.
I think if somebody reached out to me about a team, and I might say something like, well, if you can work with short deadlines, that team's going to be great for you, instead of saying they send everything last minute, So
Good point. Yeah. Well, and I think that's more useful, right? I think framing it in such a way that shows kind of how you might be impacted, as opposed to characterizing what such and such person or company does. So I like how you're framing it in the sense that if you're okay if you have the time to kind of work when you get stuff and turn things around quickly, then this is going to be like it. Or if you like a really fast-paced environment, like there's always a way to put it to where I think folks, it's very helpful still to anyone who is interested, so that they know like what if that actually fits with their personality or their schedules or their style, or how they, if they are like me and like for things to be very structured. Okay. Panel, anyone else want to speak to this topic? If have you had any regrets? Is there anything you would do differently if you could? All right. So if there, Delise, yay.
Sorry, I couldn't get my camera to come on. I guess not a regret, because I changed. I'm doing this. Is I used to get the rejection letter and be so upset, like take it so personally, and think, why am I not good enough for them? And what I learned is, and you get some feedback and sometimes you don't, but send them an email back and ask them if there's anything you need to work on, or what would give you better chances to make the team next time. Is there anything in your in your folder, then that you sent them in your pictures, that it's not what they're looking for? Is there anything that it's what they're looking for? Just for next time, for you to be more prepared. Recently, I was a little devastated well, not that recently, but maybe a year ago, and I sent an email back to them asking, is there anything I can improve to have better chances next time? And the reply was, it was funny because it was also, how they always ask you, what is it one thing you will bring to the company that you think you could improve, or something like that. There's always a question that is somewhere paraphrased that way, but that's the question. And my answer was that I see products a different way. Like I don't do necessarily the super cutesy. Like I will do a super cutesy, but do a messy, ugly background. But that's what I like.
Yeah.
So their response was that my design did not follow the company, the way the company wanted to portray. So exactly what I love about creating, they weren't looking for it.
Yeah.
Which completely made sense to me. I'm like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't anything personal. This is not what they want to portray as they only want it to be cutesy. And I get it and I appreciate it. And that means the next time that they have a DT call, I won't submit and have my hopes super high. But it kind of makes sense, because sometimes we're so harsh. We're our worst critic. And I think that it took me a while, but now I'm trying to do it differently, little by little.
Awesome. That's a very good point, and a good takeaway for all of us, really. And I think Kim also touched on it a little bit. Is you're gonna experience some rejection, but it's not necessarily about your quality of work. A lot of it is just what the company needs or wants to portray as part of their brand. And so what they didn't value in your style, another company would probably love. And so it's not a reflection on you as a statement. it's just a partnership, as with anything, right? It just needs to be a good fit on both sides. Awesome. Okay, so that was our last planned topic. So, folks in the live chat, we covered a lot, and I hope most of the questions that you might have had, um, but this is the time for open Q&A. So, if you do have any questions that we didn't already cover, feel free to pop them in the chat. As we were going, I did try to star and keep track of some. So I will bring up one that I know was asked early on. Cool Cakes and Crafts with Amalia said, would love to hear more about international DTs when you have a chance. So Delise, I think you said that you were on an international team. I think Danny was on an international team. Do you want to? I don't know exactly what Amalia would like to hear about it, but do you want to talk a little bit about your experience working on an international team? I think all of us are U.S. based. So by international, we're talking outside the U.S. Danny, thanks.
She left me again. I had to figure out the mouse again. I've been on a couple, but mine were only digital stamps and digital paper. So it was all digital. So it was really not any different than anything else. So my experience is probably not that valuable in like sending products or anything like that. But I will say the one team that I was on from the UK had a very extensive contract I had to sign. It was more extensive than any I've seen in the US.
Really?
So that, yeah, it was insane, the contract I had to sign. So I believe that they cover their bases maybe a little bit more. I don't know, but that was the biggest difference that I saw.
Okay. That's I've been on 2 international teams, and the my experience is that like with shipping especially. So one team, it was digital product, and with the other team, they did ship physical product. And one of the challenges was things getting lost in the mail or things coming really slowly. And so thankfully with the team that sent physical product, I think they were really understanding of that. So they weren't having us post to a strict schedule. So that helped a lot. So if it took like an extra week for stuff to get to us, it's not like we were we had to turn it around right away, because they were really flexible with they were very understanding of that fact, and then they were really flexible about when we could share. And so it didn't feel like a huge stress that sometimes things came late. And Mommy Guide says, indeed, this was a very extensive discussion and sharing about anything and everything DT. Thank you. I truly appreciate the panel sharing of their own DT journey and tips. Thank you. It was my hope that we could cover a lot of topics, and I'm glad that we had the time to do that. And I'm not seeing a lot of questions from the chat, so I think maybe we did a pretty good job of of covering things. So hi.
Hi, it's me, your problem child. No, I did want to say one thing that popped in my head as we were talking about it, and then it popped out, and then it popped back, so I wanted to get out before it left again. For people, something that I learned along my journey is when you apply to a design team, it's almost like a job application. You really need to sell yourself. I used to they ask questions and stuff. I would just answer them very simply and I would be turned down. Now, like if they ask my style, well, I really like clean and simple, but sometimes I like layers. I'd go more detailed, and you just have to act like it's an actual job application, and not just, I used to do bare minimum, and I didn't get on Teams, so, and I never knew that, but then I started learning, and I'm like, oh, I need to sell myself, and stuff. So that's one thing I thought about for those new trying to get on design teams. Plus, nowadays, I've kind of noticed a lot of teams don't even do design team calls. They just pick, or they'll just ask you. And the way to do that is just to share. If you love their product, share all you can on all their social media.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, because every company goes about picking their design team members differently, and to your point, they don't all put out an open call, and they hand select, or it's kind of a by invitation only sort of deal. So if you want to get onto those teams, you have to get on their radar. And if they have a fan group on Facebook, then you want to be sharing your makes featuring their products on that Facebook group, and tagging them in their makes so that they see you. So that's a good point. Oh, here's a question. So Janet says, welcome first off, Janet, to the live stream. Are there tax implications if you are on a DT team and are given the product? So one thing, I think this has been explained to me. So if you're receiving things from overseas, if it's below, I think, a certain dollar amount in total value, there's no what do they call it? Import charge or something. So usually what you're gonna get is gonna be well below that dollar amount, and so you won't get charged. I think it's an import tax, because if it's greater than that amount, then it's not considered samples anymore. It's as if you are importing product to retail out and sell here in the States, and that's when you might get tariffs. Thank you, thank you, Mama Pillow. And so I hope I'm answering the right question, but that's my understanding. Panel, does anyone else have a different interpretation or answer to this question?
I'm not sure about the products we get. Honestly, I don't. But if you are making affiliate sales, and I think it's if you make over $600 a year, you do have to report that on your taxes.
And that's in the U.S., because I know Janet, I believe, is in Canada, so it might be different there. So.
Oh yeah, good point. We are all U.S. based, so what we know is going to be very, very, very much based on that. Delise?
There are some states that, yes, you do, depending on the amount of product that you're sending. So the same thing as the tariffs. So there's some states in the United States that you will have to pay tax if you are above a certain amount.
That's
some
if you
companies
receive,
also, when you're international.
That's
Yeah.
when you receive product. Okay.
Yes, when you receive products. So also, if it's international, and maybe that's why, because I remember my contract with the UK company was absurd too. It was pages and pages and pages of lawyer stuff.
Oh wow.
So and one of the things was how they would send products. So because they're trying to alleviate both them having to pay extra to send it just for someone to work on it and for us to receive it. But there are some ways sometimes that there's no way to go around it. So, but
Yeah.
they most of it, and I will bring this information up front for you.
Okay. Okay. So you'll know if there are implications, likely they will let you know. And I think that's maybe why a lot of teams, there's just a lot of challenges with having an international team, and not all companies are kind of prepared to handle all of that.
My first box for one of my international, the one that came from Canada, when that box arrived to my house, I was beyond flabbergasted. This box weighed over 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
They actually refunded me for my tariff that I had to pay.
Oh, so you did have to pay, yeah.
Because this was my first package from them, so they wanted to send me all the basics, and they were so nice. They were super excellent. So they didn't want me to have to pay for that because the products were only online or in Canada.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's really great of them.
Oh, they were wonderful, 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 wonderful company. Very sad that they are not longer in business, but they were a very nice company.
That's awesome. I have Cynthia's comment here. She says, yes, share. I was asked to join a DT based on the projects I posted. So it works. so there's that from Cynthia. And I think that was in response to Danny's suggestion that not all companies out there put out DT calls. So if you want to get on the radar, you got to share. You got to make and share. Okay. So last call for questions, and as we wrap up, I'll keep an eye out for any last questions. But meanwhile, I will, as we say our goodbyes, I'll have each of my amazing panel members, as we're signing off, maybe you could answer the same two questions that Kim did, and that is, what's the most valuable thing that you've gained or learned? And I know we've touched on a little bit of both of these, but what advice would you give someone who is trying to get onto a DT? So I'm gonna still keep an eye for last minute comments, but let's start. Who wants to go first answering these last two questions from the panel before I call on
Okay,
names?
I will start.
Thank you.
Okay, so like the most
we lost your
valuable
video.
lesson. Huh?
We lost your video. I don't know if that was intentional.
My video?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, that was Alicia.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Helen. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, it's okay. The most valuable lesson I learned about applying on design teams is that you really have to do your research on them, and you also have to really love their product, because if you don't really wholeheartedly love their product, I mean, it's gonna feel like it's a chore, you know? So if you really love it, I feel like your creativity would flow more. It won't feel like work. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like a lot of the panelists said this, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you are in any doubt with anything, ask your coordinator about it, because they're there to help. That's why they're the video coordinator or the social media coordinator. And as far as like getting on a design team, like first you really just have to be yourself, because if you're not, people are going to notice that. And I think people want someone they can relate to. So like, just be yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have like the best of the best stuff out there, because people, some can't afford it or some have certain things. So it's just, be yourself. And I think you will find that people will appreciate that you are yourself. And let's see, as far as like pluses for applying, I think it's good that you take clear pictures of your projects. It helps if you have social media accounts such as Instagram, Facebook. I think YouTube is a plus. If you make videos, I think that's showcasing their products where people can actually see what you're representing more. And also, I think one thing that's super, super important is that you're consistent in putting out pictures and videos, because that, if you put yourself as a business owner and you're picking someone to represent you, you would want someone who's consistent in what they're putting out each week. And that's the advice I would give you, is to be consistent, be yourself, and to do your research. That's it.
You've covered so many things that I wanted to say, Helen. Leave some for the rest of us. All right.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. All right. Danny and Alicia were on screen a moment ago, so I'm going to throw it to them next.
I guess I'm going to go first. But yeah, I think she checked off all those boxes. Just some things I was going to say. Being on a design team is not the end all be all of your craftiness.
Yeah.
I know, before I got on design teams, I'm like, oh, that's the ultimate. That's how I know I've made it as a crafter. And it's not. You can do this and just have fun. I would say my top advice for getting onto a design team, just share, tag too. Let those companies know that you're using their product, because I think many times now, like has been mentioned, they don't really do calls, all the companies anymore. So just, be yourself, use what you love. Don't go out, if you see a company that does have a design team call, don't just go out and buy their stuff so you can make stuff to apply for it. Apply to the company. Guilty. Sorry, Danny.
And that was going to be one of my advice too.
It's use what you love, and if it's right, it's going to happen. But again, it says nothing about your creativity or your quality. Like, there's this team, and here, lesson learned, what I'm saying, I've applied a couple years in a row, never got a reply back. But you know what? I'm not sharing stuff. I'm not sharing my creations using their stuff. So why would they choose me? But I'm not going to go out and buy a whole bunch of my stuff to hopefully get on a better standing next year.
Yeah.
It's okay though if you do, Danny.
No, I don't. I don't do that anymore. But that is kind of, everyone said it, pretty much everything. I guess the thing that I was going to say is just be true to yourself. Make sure that they're your dreams that you're following. Over the last year, I've kind of got, like I've mentioned, kind of got on this little journey, finding myself, I guess you could say. And I figured out that a lot of the things I was doing was not my dreams. They were somebody else's. I have a best friend who's a YouTube star in my eyes.
Yeah.
So I thought I needed to do YouTube. I have such anxiety, except for this is fine. But I have such anxiety. I have panic attacks before every video that I put out. And I was like, this is not what I need to do. So I'm not doing that. I love to blog. I love to color. I was trying not to color. Forget that. Once in a while is fine.
That's me.
I know, once in a while is fine. But make sure you're on your own journey. I also I love stamps. I have more stamps. I could probably stamp a day for the next 25, 30, 50, 100 years. If you like to use what you have, then use what you have. I'm happy to say that so far this year, I have been doing so well and not running out and buying everything, because I don't feel I want to do that, So I guess just follow your own dreams, your own path.
I don't know if this has been said. I've had to leave a couple times, but keep in mind too, if you get on a design team, you're going to be spending your own money to make those projects for the companies. You know, like you're going to have to buy your cardstock, you know, depending what kind of company it is and what they send you, but you're going to be your own ink, your own so just keep that in mind too.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and not one that we actually covered. So, glad that you brought that up because, yeah, I mean, you're gonna get the free product from the design team sponsor company, but that's not where I mean, that's not the sole expense of actual money out of pocket that's going to be required for you to actually complete your obligations or responsibilities to that team. So good point, Alicia. Delise, are you still here with us, girl? There you go. Okay, so most valuable lesson learned, advice. If there's anything left to say.
So we have been talking about most valuable thing. I think confidence. I think again, like I said, I think we're some of our worst critics, if not the worst critics. And also advice for when you're applying. Yes, just share, but make sure you go to their Instagram account. Make sure that you go to their Facebook account and check to see what is that they're recommending to use as their hashtags. Because those are the hashtags that big companies go and look to go and leave feedback. Okay?
Yeah.
So don't just, like, if you share it and you share it in your little bubble, it might not be seen by them. You might create a hashtag that they don't look at. But go do that, take that time, follow them, check their hashtag, check how they are telling people how to share their projects with, because that makes a difference.
Yeah, that is very good advice and not something that I've thought of before, but that will help you get on their radar because I think, Spellbinders is, never stop creating. Sizzix has its own. So there are a lot of companies that kind of have their own motto that is their hashtag, and that's going to be more likely to pop up on their radar than something a little bit more general about crafting. So that is really good advice. Well, thank you all for joining my panel today. I'm so honored to have this discussion with you. I've learned so much from you, and thank you everybody who joined us live today as well. Really love the conversations that and I know I miss a lot in the live chat when we do these streams, but I will go back and watch, and I do go back and read the live chat. For me, I'll answer this question as well. Oh, any last comments? Sorry.
Nope.
So I don't know that I have anything new necessarily to add. But for sure, one of the things that I think I have gained the most is just kind of my own identity, and I think this has been touched on as well by everybody on this panel, and I think when you kind of finally start to kind of realize what not so much a style, because I don't know that I have any one particular style, but it's just having that confidence, like Delise was saying, to be yourself. And that's been said by Helen, Danny, Alicia, everybody. Like, be yourself and have confidence in what you're putting out there. If you're putting your own love and joy into your creations, then the right team for you will be the team that values that. And if you are getting rejections, and I've had plenty, it just means that it's not a good fit or not a good fit at that time. So, to Kim's advice, keep trying if it's something that you have your heart set on, but at the same time, don't feel like you necessarily have to craft to their brand image, for example, if that's gonna not be something that you enjoy. So I think staying true to yourself and having that confidence to just keep putting your work out there. I would say as a maybe a more practical takeaway is, to my experience anyway, is that when I first started applying to design teams, I didn't really have much of a base of followers or subscribers. I had a little something going on, but and I'm not huge, by any stretch of the imagination, even today. But I do feel like you have to have a little bit of a track record, whether that's consistency, as Helen was touching on, in terms of like posting regularly, in terms of maybe a long history, kind of to what Danny has been saying. She had a very well established blog. And I think if I were to put myself in the shoes of a DT sponsor or company owner, I would want to make sure that whoever's on my team, that it's not going to be like a flash in the pan, that they're committed to doing this, to sharing, to making, creating, and sharing on a regular basis for a stretch of time, however long that term is going to be. And most of the time, I've seen terms that are like a year, 6 months to a year. And so they just want to make sure that if your entire social media history is not even a year, they might wonder if you've got the legs, you know what I mean, to stick with it. So so that's I guess the practical piece of advice that I have to share if you're trying to get onto a DT, to to keep posting, to keep sharing, establish that history, establish a network, and show that you are in it and this is what you want to do. You want to share your creations. So okay, well, thank you, everybody. Before we all say our final goodbyes, I do have one announcement that I want to make before we end this stream. Thanks for hanging in there, those who are still in the live chat. So what I want to announce is that there will be a part 3 to my Let's Talk Design Team series. The third part will air March 25th. It has not been scheduled yet because I wanted everybody here today who's still with us to the end here to be the first to know that there will be a part 3. And the panelists who will be joining me for part 3 will be some DT owners. Yes, there will be some company owners joining me to talk about design teams and what sponsors, design team owners, company owners are looking for. So mark your calendars. I'll say by the end of the weekend, maybe not by the end of today, but by the end of the weekend, I will have that live stream scheduled on my channel. And you can hit my channel at the very top of my About page. You'll see a list of upcoming live streams. You can hit notify me so that you'll get a reminder when we go live. But that is going to be March 25th. I'll have the exact number of panelists joining me is still in flux, but I am really happy to say that there are some fabulous design team owners, company owners who are honoring me and are willing to join me in a live stream to have a discussion so we can talk a little bit more in depth about design teams from their side of things and what they are looking for when they are choosing their team members. So that is my big announcement. Folks who are watching on the replay and folks who are live, if you do have questions that we didn't cover today, please feel free to leave them in the comments of this video. I do read and reply to all of the comments on my videos. And for my channel members, I will drop a link to on my community page. And if you are a channel member, please do feel free to submit your questions to me for part 3 if there are any burning questions that you have that you've always wanted to ask design team owners. I can't necessarily guarantee that those questions be asked, but I do welcome you to submit them. So thank you, everybody. We're getting a lot of really good feedback on the in the live chat, and I'm so glad that everybody has found this stream and this talk to be useful. And thank you so much for being so engaged. And I want to give my panelists a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks for being so open and honest about your experiences on design teams. I know it's a topic that can be a little bit hard to talk about considering some sensitivities and having to be careful about what we say. And so I really appreciate that in the spirit of trying to be as helpful as we can to other crafters out there, that you were willing to spend almost 4 hours with me in this conversation. And
I
so,
was just going to say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's probably the fastest 4-hour stream I've ever been on. Actually, the only one, but it did fly by. Thank you, Lynn, for arranging it. And thank you to everybody who was here chatting with us.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so last round of goodbyes from everybody. Feel free to plug your social media again if you'd like. I'm going to try to clip some links. So Denny, Alicia, do you want to just do your final goodbye and give me some time to find your links?
Thanks for everyone for hanging in there and for coming. I know last time that you did the part 1, I did want to just put it out there. I'm open. You can ask me questions privately or whatever if you want. I kind of like the idea of mentoring. That sounds kind of fun. Why not move on to that? So if you have any questions, just reach out. And thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. I did copy in Call Me Crafty Al's YouTube channel and Danny's Dreams Crafts blog link. So easy links in the chat for you to pop on over and give them a follow. Delise, how about you? Do you want to say your final goodbyes?
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. While we were talking of it, it's a very diverse theme. I was crafting too.
Aw, awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Card that I just made. I know. Just if I have to be busy because I don't know what to do. This is my ADD. Just if you have time, go to my channel here in YouTube. I'm Stamper Girl. In Instagram, I'm still Ali Dali. Still trying to decide if I'm gonna change everything or not. Yeah, it may happen, it may never happen. So, but thank you for joining us, and thank you for keeping the chat going so lively.
Thanks. And Delisa's Stamper Girl on YouTube. There's a link to it in the chat as well. Helen, thanks for joining. Do you want to say your final goodbyes?
Yes, just want to say thank you, Lynn, for inviting me to this discussion. It's been so much fun. And I want to thank everyone who joined in on the chat. And big mega love shout out to Mommy Guide Inc. for waking up at 6 a.m.
Oh my
She's
God.
in the Philippines and she really wanted to come and support us on here. And I'm so grateful for everybody who turned up and for asking those wonderful questions.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody who joined. Thank you. Big, huge thanks to all of my panel members. And I can't say how much I appreciate you joining me. I was very nervous to ask each of you to join this stream. So, so really, really very excited. And I learned so much from both the panel today as well as everybody in the live chat. So thank you, everybody. And March 25th is part 3. Until then, enjoy your crafty journey. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out with us, and goodbye.